Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. This is episode 11.
Excellent. We've got through 11. This will be it. This is it. This is the last one. This is Carrick with ACG.
And this is Mike Williams of PC Mag. Hello.
PC Mag.
Mike, it's excellent to have you here, man. It is great to meet you as well. It's our first time doing something together, so we're happy to have you.
Indeed. Thanks for having me, gents. I love coming on podcasts and talking to people about the good word about video games.
All right, good. Well, we have, well, let's put it this way. You picked a great week to hop on with us because we have absolute metric ton to go over. I mean, from Game Pass editions to plenty more. And of course, your submissions through patreon.com/laststandmedia. There is a metric ton. So get cozy, because it's going to be a doozy of an episode. So for those of you who are new here, we had a lot of new listeners in our last episode. We appreciate you tuning in. We hope you're enjoying the product. If you want to support us, there's a couple ways you can do it, both free and not so free. If you want early access to the show, you like it that much, it's available on Thursdays through patreon.com/laststandmedia, and it'll hit free feeds like Spotify, Apple/Google Podcasts, and plenty more on Sunday. So if you don't want to wait, sign up on Patreon. If you want to see us for free via video, we're on the Last Stand Media YouTube channel. You can see us over there where we're looking nice and spiffy. I'm sporting the Sacred Symbols hoodie. This stuff is mad comfy, so get yourself one at the laststandmedia.shop merch place. But with all of that, what I really wanted to focus on here was a thank you for all of you who have submitted some mobile reviews. Like I said, this is the best free way to probably support us to push the show forward. And also for those of you who are patrons, you've been giving great feedback to Defining Duke Ultimate, our bonus show. We just did episode 7, which is rating the Bethesda Game Pass games. It was our longest one yet. So that was a really good time. Took a lot to sift through, and with a lot of good games, it's hard to rank all of them. But
what'd you rate Daggerfall?
Well, that's not on Game Pass. So that's the thing. I didn't rate all Bethesda games. I rated the Game Pass games. But
gotcha.
Yeah, I avoided that one. I haven't played Daggerfall, honestly, so...
Oh, true.
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard
what
to
I wanted
go back.
to do, more than anything, Mike, I wanted people to get to know you a little bit better, because, maybe they're new to your work. So we like to promote some stuff that we're doing early on in the show. If you want to talk about some things you've been working on, some things you've been up to, where people can find you, go ahead and let them know.
So I've been covering video games professionally for about a decade at this point. For a very long time, I was doing it over at US Gamer, and before that, I was at gamesindustry.biz. And then with COVID, US Gamer had to shut down because we were owned by an events company with no events running. So, then I am now over at PC Mag as a reviewer analyst. And then I write on the side just to get out my feelings and thoughts about pop culture, movies, TV, all that jazz. Or Medium at a blog called Into the Discourse. And you can find me on Twitter at AutomaticZen, Z-E-N, every single day spouting absolute nonsense.
Nah, I wouldn't go that far. Wouldn't go that far.
Mike, is your microphone close to your mouth, by the way, or is it far away? Just
it's a little
across
quiet.
on my end, a little quiet. On my end, it is. I don't know if it's
Here,
just
I'll
me.
bring it closer.
If you don't mind. Sorry.
Yeah, that's not a
But
problem.
all right, yeah. There we go. That sounds good. Yeah, be sure to search Mike up. He does good stuff. And a big thank you to Carrick for pulling all this together. This is all thanks to his work, and it was his idea. So
Yeah, well, it's
Made
weird
love to
because
you.
it's like, I don't even remember how Mike and I started talking. I don't remember. That's weird. But anyway, we would randomly talk, and I would realize like, oh, we agree on this game. We agree on this game, blah, blah, blah. And we don't agree on this. But what's weird is, for the most part, he never, which is rare for me, even Maddie does this, but he never rubbed me the wrong way when he disagreed. I'm just joking. But you get those people who disagree, and you get those people that disagree, and you're like, I don't know where he's coming from. And I think context is a big deal. And I started checking out US Gamer because of him. And I started looking, and I was like, oh, you know what? I can, because if you don't agree, that's one thing, but coming away and knowing why somebody came up with whatever they're saying. And then we happened to be in the same forum. And so you would see their posts in forums, and I'd be like, a lot of times people just go into forums, I think, especially when reviews pop. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this, but you say, hey, my review's live, and that's it, right? I mean, that's honestly, a lot of people do that. What I was noticing with Mike is somebody was asking, and you sort of started it, Mike, I feel, but people were asking questions, and Mike was writing stuff out. And obviously, you can tell he's a writer. Like, it was well written, and I would read it, go, oh, okay, I get, I get this, and that kind of stuff is just super helpful, man. So kudos to you. That's why I've had you on the podcast, and why I wanted you on this one. Like, that kind of stuff it's not just blather. You joked about, your Twitter being blather, but it's not just blather. We even agree on some Star Wars stuff, which I usually feel like I'm alone in that. But yeah, it's been fun. I've been following him for, man, 3 or 4 years now, I think.
Yes, it's been a couple years at this point. I mean, I like doing that just because, I mean, like, part of like the job is informing people, like it's about the acknowledgement that, look, I know that my money is finite, so your money is finite. So I'm going to make sure that you get connected with the game that is good for you. Or maybe there's some stuff out there you just don't know about, like some smaller games, like you brought up Loop Hero recently. So I'm like, informing people, and you can do that by being nice and talking with them and having a conversation. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
No, I think it breeds passion too. The more, when you get those positive ones, you start to want to engage, versus you get somebody who's like, well, I don't agree with you. All right, well, that's that.
Carrick, what have you been up to?
Dude, are we going to talk about Outer Worlds, or can I just talk about it right now?
Go for it. Talk about it now.
Okay, so you did your review early. I don't know how you got it. And Maddie there with his special ducats.
All right, special. So no. Here's the story.
Okay. Here's the story. Let's let him lie, people. Let him lie. I'm just joking.
No. I got it pretty early. I was playing it. I got it pretty early. I did my preview yesterday, but I labeled it a review by accident. I did not mean to, and so I was hit up by accident, and they're like, hey, take that down. It's a review. I'm like, and they went, wait, we just watched your video. Just put a P there, and so that's why mine went up live beforehand, because it was a preview. I hadn't completed it, but I was, oh god,
brother,
I
just thought people were recognizing the talent finally. I thought they were I thought Obsidian was straight up like, we could do Rad Brad,
two things can
but
be true
instead,
at once.
let's do Mr. Matty's. Right, the two things can be true at once. That's perfect. That's awesome. So I was playing Outer Worlds. I agree with pretty much everything you said. That DLC, I was talking to Mike right before he came on. That DLC is a good setup for the sequel in its quality. I'm hoping the quality for a sequel goes more towards that than Gorgon. And I had a utter blast with that. And like when I was tweeting you yesterday going, this DLC is legit. Like, it kept going. Like, I would go over a hill and go, wait, what? There's like a settlement, and there's a thing. And then I would go over another hill and be, oh, there's a nature preserve. What is going on? Like, I've never been that surprised by a DLC in years. I just kept running around going, and what was weird is the filler, that paper thin or cardboard thin front filler you see in a lot of DLC that feels like it's a TV show trying to pretend it's the movie. Stargate, the TV show, versus Stargate, the movie. Yeah. You can tell it's a set, right? The color's a little off. Nothing happened in that. I was running around going, well, okay. The only DLC moment I felt in that is every single side non-major speaking actor said the same thing, the same one line. They said, like, I can't believe so-and-so is dead. Blah, 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 must be beside himself. And I'm like, oh, if I hear that again, I'm gonna die. Like, it just repeated. But man, I got through that, and that was one of those times where you end a game and you're like, and that's my first review back after like taking a lot of February off, and that is... it is a really good February and March. It is a really it was really enjoyable, man. I was really happy to play that. And that's pretty much it for me, is just doing that. And Loop Hero.
Yeah.
I'll probably play Loop Hero for the rest of my life. So
I need it on Switch though.
Oh, I need it on
Switch.
Switch.
I'm kind of waiting for it.
And I don't know what's going on. And did you guys just see this morning, about an hour before we went live, the awesome D&D / RPG?
Dark
the
Alliance.
one crazy.
Dark Alliance?
No, the crazy one where you can die by trying to find your shoe. That was all text. And you could die by talking to somebody.
I reviewed
Disco Elysium.
Disco Elysium's voiced version has got a release the end of this month, I think.
Ooh.
So,
man,
hopefully the voices don't ruin it. Hopefully, because remember,
that's one
like,
I've neglected for.
Dude, you
You
can die.
neglected Disco Elysium? Whew.
You can die by reading a book in that game. It is so ridiculous and so awesome. So anyway, getting geared up for that. That's it for me. What are you doing, Maddie?
Let's see here. Yeah, I've been playing some Outer Worlds DLC. I'm with you, Carrick. That stuff was phenomenal. I thought that they did a lot of good things there. What I liked most was they really trimmed the fat of some of the. There was a lot of corporate dialogue in the base game, which is what was a lot of its personality. Yeah. But what I loved about the DLC was that was used more as an introduction, and then characters kind of humanized
had
very
their
quickly.
own thing.
Yeah, it wasn't just how can I connect this to a promotion each time, which I thought worked for the base game, but I understand how over time that can kind of grind on people and you want to get to the deeper stuff. This DLC allowed that. I thought it was really well directed in that regard. I thought there was a weird disconnect where you had this like one 10-penny tower like hotel in the middle, and then you just take a step over to a separate platform and there's marauders just camped out. That kind of, it was like, we want to give you gameplay, but it didn't. Yeah, right. I think it was just a limit in budget and the desire to get it done with is what I said. You can kind of feel that in the DLC, like, all right, this is it. Let's just kind of finish this. But overall, I thought the murder mystery, the approach to it has been really good so far. So just continuing on my comments from last week, I've enjoyed that. Otherwise, started some games we'll talk about later in the show. And it's just been a busy week of Xbox news, honestly, because there's just been
so much news,
lots of stuff to talk about, and I'm sure, I mean, they've done something every single day, really. We have 3 things on our news report here that happened Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I wouldn't be surprised if they have more slated for the rest of the week.
I'll watch
I'll
watch Reddit
pace.
while we're doing the, because that's happened to us too, where we're like, probably nothing's gonna happen, be like, Xbox is free for everybody, enjoy.
Yeah, honestly. Well, we got some opening comments, starting off with Max Burke. We're just going to rip through a couple of these. We like to communicate after our show goes live. Hey, boyos, I got to say thank you to Carrick for talking about Loop Hero a few weeks back on the podcast. I picked it up on Steam, and I am hooked. It scratches an itch I didn't even know I had, and it is serving a great distraction during a stressful home renovation. Good. You guys keep up the great work, and have a chill week, Max. So just know, Carrick, you continue to spread the word on the fantastic-sounding Loop Hero.
Oh, dude, 600,000. Sorry. They sold 600,000. Like, those...
It helps to be on phones when your game is good, man.
Well, that's true. Wait, but is it on phones?
Not yet.
I think so.
Not yet. No, Maddie, that's the thing. It's not on phones yet.
That's all. Wow.
It's not on mobile.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's the thing. They're rocking it, man. It's ridiculous.
Wow. Good for them. That's amazing. Then it helps even more when that does come out.
Yes, it does. It does. And Switch, like Mike said.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely will. And we've had a lot of recent little PC indies pop up, haven't we?
Yeah.
Valheim. Just like,
Yeah.
And it just keeps happening. It's good times.
It's good because the industry kind of has gone through this lull outside of, what's been happening with announcements in the terms of games coming down the line. There's a really quiet period here that we're experiencing. And so it's allowing space for these indies to release and get some real well-deserved attention. So it's good that that's all happening. Dexter Days is our next write-in. Hey, gents. I love to see Maddie and Colin go back and forth and debate which console won the console war between the 360 and PS3. The PS3 sold more units, but I believe a strong argument could be made in either console's favor. The PS3 had way better first-party games with Uncharted 1 through 3, God of War 3, Sly 4, Infamous 1 and 2, etc. But the 360 played games better in general, and I feel like everyone I knew who had a 360 and the 360 had a larger cultural impact. Would love to hear your thoughts. Much love from the Berg.
Did it sell
I
more
don't know if
units?
I
I
can-
think it caught up.
I think it caught up. It
caught
might
up,
have
yeah.
sold more, but remember, Microsoft stopped making it before PlayStation stopped making PlayStation 3. So yeah, there was that too.
360 was ahead, and then PS3 slowly caught up
Yeah.
by time the generation closed. So
And honestly, I think that was one of the strongest generations we've seen where PlayStation bounced back, and I think Xbox is pretty strong the whole way through, where I think it's very hard to argue a true winner on that one, in my opinion. I think they both were just really strong. So I don't know if that's a conversation we'd ever have, but I still wanted to acknowledge it because I'm thinking that generation is going to mirror a lot of what we're seeing coming up if Xbox remains this competitive.
yeah.
Last comment, and then we'll get into some of the warm-up questions. Army of Knave says, hey, Dookie dudes. I'm writing in about a correction for Dead Rising. Last week, you guys got the standalone expansion, quote, Case West, end quote, mixed up with the remake of Dead Rising 2 starring Frank West titled Off the Record. Easy mistake to make, but beyond that, I would like to encourage whichever of you said that they gave up after a boss fight to return to the game and give it another shot. That would be me. The games were made to be replayed, and after every playthrough, you carry over all of your levels and abilities, making each playthrough easier as you learn the mechanics and locations. Anyways, thanks if you read my inquiry. Have the worst day of your year. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, Mike, we
That's our
typically
thing.
opened our show with like, I hope you're having an adequate day or something like that. Just a simply mediocre day. So
Sometimes we get
just
fed
so you
back
know
horrible.
in the future.
I mean,
that was-
having
I mean,
the worst
some of
day of
these
your
just-
year would be good because then everything has to be up.
Everything
right?
has to be up. Yeah.
That was our mentality when we started doing it. We were just like, we hope you listen to this show and it is just a blip on your radar. Like it's just okay.
Yeah.
It's just, we're shooting for mediocrity, man. We're just showing up for the numbers. We are absolutely quantity and not quality. That's our plan, right? Just get them numbers
I mean, when
in,
you look
baby.
at this write-up, man, we got big numbers when you look at how many write-ins.
Oh,
we
no.
have.
We
Like,
do.
it's
We do
insane.
phenomenal. Yeah.
All right, let's get into some of these warm-up questions where we can all talk. Aaron Turtle's our first. Hey, Double D boys. With recent talk about Xbox looking to buy self-managing studios that wouldn't need to be overseen by the already overstretched Matt Booty, I had an idea. What if part of the reason Xbox is looking to buy Sega, which, by the way, we don't know if that's the case, is to create a Bethesda-esque publishing arm in Japan as they acquire more Japanese studios? I don't think any major Japanese studio will sell to Microsoft, except possibly Sega, so their best bet is to buy smaller studios like Bokeh and grow them under Sega's directions. Hope you're having the worst day of your life so far. I love the show. Adam.
Awesome. Go ahead, Mike, if you want to do that one.
I mean, I'm not gonna say Sega's not gonna sell because up until Bethesda happened, I didn't think Bethesda was gonna sell. I just feel like a lot of these Japanese companies want to keep their independence and especially don't necessarily want to be underneath an American company in any way. Sega would probably be one of the biggest ones, but I get the feeling that Sega is more likely to continue having a strong partnership with Microsoft. Like they're willing to say, I mean, we'll work with you all the way. Keep sending money our way. We'll keep, like, we want to remain independent, but we'll keep working with you. In the same way that Square Enix is like, like, we'll work with you. Just keep the checks flowing, and we will make sure things happen on your platform. Even some of the smaller ones, I think, are less willing. Like you got stuff like Platinum, who, with the thing with Scalebound, maybe not want to repartner with Microsoft. But even then, like with enough money, you think they'd say yes, but it hasn't 100% happened yet. So that's what I'm thinking. Like there's a lot of Japanese companies that are willing to definitely work with Microsoft on a strong and long-term basis, but necessarily don't want to be acquired by Microsoft being an American company.
Yeah, I tend to sit on the side of the fence now as I look at it more and develop my thoughts. Is I want to see if you both agree. I think that their acquisitions of studios is mostly done for now, and I think they're going to attack just third-party stuff pretty hard, and that's in two ways. I think they're going to do stuff on kind of like what Mike said, hey, Sega, maybe do something exclusive for us in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
But more along the lines of, the extraction of PlayStation only titles like a Yakuza, like a Persona, and getting them on their platform. We've seen Microsoft get Final Fantasy. There's a bunch of those on Game Pass. We've seen them get Dragon Quest. We're seeing a lot of JRPGs that normally weren't on Xbox make their way there. Yakuza is another, I don't know if you throw that under JRPG or not, but point being, is a Japanese style title. And what's really missing there is, I would say, Persona, a drum I have continued to beat on this show. And I'm pretty confident it's going to happen. But with that said, I think that that's what Xbox's plan is. They're like, okay, you got to just compare the two for a sec. And it's no disrespect to PlayStation, but they do have a lot of super talented studios, but they're all doing different slices of the same pie. So you've got, I've said this before, superhero open world, you've got post-apocalyptic open world in Horizon, you've got that zombie open world with Days Gone, which could also be thrown into post-apocalyptic. You've got mythological open world with God of War. They're all third-person games, so there's a similar DNA there. Where I think if I'm Xbox, I look and say, hey, we've got Arcane for stealth. You've got Bethesda Game Studios for RPGs. Playground Games is doing RPG. You've got Turn 10 for Forza. There's a lot of just diversity there where I feel like they can get a good release going most quarters if they get all their ducks in a row, which I think is possible under good management. Where I think the next point should be, let's attack third party. Let's get these studios to just work with us on a temporary exclusive basis, like a Square Enix with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and extract games that were originally associated with PlayStation and just get them on our platform. Because if you have Game Pass and you have exclusives, that's synonymous. You have access to both now. And so if people are on Xbox, as long as they can access something like, say, Persona, you don't have a reason to then go to PlayStation. I think that's what they're looking for, is the reasoning or removing rather the reasoning of saying, why would I go to my PlayStation? I think that's their goal. And I don't know if the route of pure acquisitions is the pathway for that. That's just my interpretation, though. What do you guys make of some of that?
Well, I think Sega isn't even on the same tier as Bethesda. So to me, that's sort of confusing whenever anybody compares them, because it's like Bethesda and the amount of sales and just craziness that goes on there is beyond measure different than a Sega. And I love Sega. I'm a Sega super fan. Like, I love every single thing Sega's ever done. I've had all their systems, but even I would look at that and go, why would we buy that versus whatever deals we did to get Yakuza? So those deals, would probably continue. I would not assume that they could, I have heard that there is one big, the one big company, but wait, I don't know if that's happening.
Right,
and it just seems like there's a lot going on with Microsoft, and that Microsoft has a tendency to they go to no one's drum, which is fine. Nobody does. So they take their time. We saw that when Xbox and Bethesda sat on the stage together and Bethesda ran that roundtable, you wouldn't see that with any other company. That was quite strange to see the company run the roundtable and not like Phil Spencer run it. So I have a feeling whatever they want to bring in, they probably do want it running itself. That, I think, also sort of collects some particular companies and shuttles them off as possibly not being a thing. However, one thing people are not remembering, Bethesda stated, we will stay separate, which means they could go into Bethesda's umbrella and not Microsoft's, which is what I've been thinking for a while, is like, do they go under umbrellas? Because basically what's happened is Microsoft bought a quarterback that can also call plays. That's sort of what happened. And it makes sense. Dude, look at like Pete Hines and Todd Howard. They're like, yeah, we showed up to Xbox's thing just because we had nothing else to do. That's sort of the way they acted. It was like, and they all get along. And I think that's great. That's the way it should be. I don't know much about how Booty handles, I just love his name, by the way, how Booty handles all of the business and how many, or if he's overstretched. That sort of came about later, where people were suddenly saying like, oh, he can't do it. It's like, you don't have any clue how much and what like level of directorship under him those guys have. So I don't know if he's overburdened or not, but I think that Bethesda stating very clearly they were still sort of becoming the separate entity does allow for companies to come under Bethesda, which could be quite enjoyable to see. Elix, by the way.
And Bethesda already has Tango Gameworks, which is a Japanese company. But again, they allow them to pretty much be. I mean, there's room to pick up some of those folks that just left PlayStation from Japan Studio.
True.
And maybe see if like, hey, we'll bring you in.
And Mike, not to play behind, not to like pick your brain for inside sources, but it's my opinion that those guys might work easier if it wasn't Microsoft. If it was,
right.
You know,
That's well said. Yeah.
I mean, I think we all know what I'm saying. I just think that if like Tango and Bethesda approach them, it's a little different than if Microsoft does. That's just my own.
I mean, I'd agree. Like the Microsoft platform in Japan has pretty much gone nowhere.
Yeah, ever.
despite best efforts. And so, like, if you're a Japanese developer and you're in Japan, you're walking by your own stores, you're talking to your family members and friends and kids and all that stuff, you want to make games for the platforms that they're like, you want to make games for your people.
Yeah. And
Microsoft, like, there's always probably that worry in the back that maybe you don't. And again, that's like speculation, but it's also a bit of Occam's razor. Just like, yeah, man, I'm not gonna go and make games for Raspberry Pi and I don't own one. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna make games for stuff that I care about, for platforms that I already have.
Yeah.
So, and I think, like you said, Bethesda gives them a lot of space because Bethesda is still already, you know, doing games that are also on PlayStation or other platforms. So there's that space to say, hey, come in here. We'll give you the money and resources to start up your own thing, make your games the way you want to make them. Look, Tango Gameworks, they get to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And we don't get in their way. You can have that too. Just maybe also put a game on Xbox, make sure it ends up on Game Pass. That's all we ask.
It's funny that you guys bring up Bethesda interacting on behalf of Microsoft for a Japanese studio. Because I don't want to say who, because I don't know if that's even a thing, because I heard this 2 years ago, but there was a rumor I had caught wind of that was something, not on behalf of Microsoft, that Bethesda was interacting with a studio in Japan. I was like, what? And so, you know, once again, that seems to be an unfounded rumor, but it's just funny you mentioned that because it jogged that in my brain, and thought of that is, I think, something that could be very well possible down the line. And yeah, you know, whether that's through a new acquisition or something. Let's talk a little bit about that. Jack Toland is our next write-in. Hello to the dynamic duo, as well as Mike, from the UK.
Terrific trio.
It's no secret that Microsoft... Yeah, right? That's actually a better way of putting it. It's no secret that Microsoft is out to acquire more studios and publishers as they continue to bolster Game Pass. Barring a major acquisition like Ubisoft or Sega, which publisher or developer makes the most sense to pick up? Personally, I think Paradox makes the most sense. If Xbox is serious about Game Pass PC, then they're going to need PC-centric developers. Paradox offers this and does so at what it presumably is a reasonable price. Imagine the next Crusader Kings, Hearts of Iron, and Stellaris all launching day one into Xbox Game Pass PC exclusively. For developers, I think Spiders offers an affordable RPG developer that could be built into a stellar AA RPG developer, or I think he meant to say AAA here, which produces smaller experiences to the Game Pass masses. Thanks for reading. Keep up the good work.
I think if they're looking at smaller developers like Spiders, they need to move quick before THQ Nordic picks up all of them.
It's just like a Hoover, man.
So, yeah, that's a good question. Paradox, maybe?
Because Paradox and Microsoft already work together. Paradox announced all their games on Game Pass day one now already. So that's why I was saying, I don't know. Like, I don't know if they would want to also be purchased. You know, like,
that's the big question mark is we don't know the money deals that occur still to this day. So we don't know if it's a beneficial move for a company to say we're going to remain independent and let Microsoft pay us for, you know, access to our games on Game Pass day one, or is it more sensible to open up to an acquisition? Those types of things. Because I remember this was a big thing with the Epic Game Store exclusivity. No one knew how much Epic was paying, and then I think Control leaked. It was like 10 million or something like that. It was a high number though, and we have yet to see numbers at all for Xbox leak in the terms of how much we've heard good things about Game Pass exposure, increased sales, but we have yet to see an actual figure like Xbox paid this much or per download this much. That's the type of stuff that I think would help us sift out more of this conversation on whether they'd say, hey, if they paid $500 million to get Paradox games day one on Game Pass, is that more worthwhile than spending $2 billion and acquiring them as a whole? I don't know if they'd
right.
even be that much, but
They
you know,
would.
that's it's
get
really hard to just guess.
The mid-range ones would probably be the ones like the problem with spiders is I think they need at least a hit to be on Microsoft's radar.
Probably.
So you're probably going to want someone like Remedy, IO. I think IO might not, just because it already had to save itself from another parent company.
Right.
Yeah.
But someone like Remedy might be like, sure, maybe, you know, we get to, and it's like, what's the names behind Hellblade?
Ninja Theory.
Ninja Theory, where they no longer have to worry, like Ninja Theory when they did their like video, like, oh, we got acquired. Like for them, it definitely made sense. Like we just don't want to worry about the logistics of all of this. We don't want to worry about having to.
We want to
work,
make
like,
a game.
Hellblade, they had to like cut and scrimp and save just to make the game. And Microsoft gives them the ability to say, yeah, just here's the budget, here's the resources, we'll take care of all the marketing. You don't have to worry about that stuff. Just make your game, and we'll make sure it gets to people. And some developers, I think Remedy might be on the edge there about, and they've already worked with Microsoft because they did Quantum Break.
And
And Alan Wake and doing Crossfire.
Yeah, so Remedy, I'll say Remedy is my best guess.
Good pick. Do you have one in mind, Carrick, or is it just you should?
No, he shot down. He just shot down. And I agree, but he shot down. So the thing with like the smaller companies like Piranha Bytes and all these other smaller ones is they do probably need a big hit. And even though who did Vampire? Who did Don't Nod. So Don't Nod Square though, right?
Yeah.
Darn it. Yeah, so
I don't think they're are they owned by Square?
I don't know, but I think they have a good relationship, if you get my drift. Like, I think they might not be like, we want to do it, which is fine, by the way. Like, I don't want to pull people from, but Remedy's probably my
interesting
choice.
here. Interesting thing here. Yeah, Don't Nod developed Vampire, but this was published by Focus Home, whereas Life is Strange is published by Square.
And I'm going to tell you guys, the honest truth
they're
is,
just floating.
This is a year ago. So nothing's happened. So I'm just going to say this. I was told Focus Home and Microsoft, that was the plan.
Yeah.
And I thought that made perfect sense at the time. Because I was like, Focus is sort of, they've got like the creeper hits, you know, like the Innocence, Plague Tale Innocence, and like all these, there's a lot of their games just pop up and you're like, man, that's a good game. You know, that's a good solid title.
Bloober Team probably also would be.
Oh yeah, for medium.
Because they have, I don't think they're quite there yet. But the jump from Layers of Fear to medium has been like 4 years.
Yeah, sure.
Just the growth in one to that last one. And like I said, medium isn't quite there yet, but it's far, far beyond what they were doing with Layers of Fear. Only
that is
4 years
absolutely
early.
true. That is absolutely
so I'm
true.
I get the feeling they'll get there eventually.
I hope so. I mean, the medium did well, even though I don't like that game, it did well. So that's good for them, and maybe Microsoft sees that and says like, hey, if we give them money and they put gameplay in their game, that would be quite the sell.
Who bought it? Who bought the medium? And where are you? And I have a beef with you. I don't understand. I don't like to diss on games. That game is bad. I don't know I don't feel like I'm a part of the real world whenever anybody talks about medium but me. I don't get it.
What do you think the average medium purchaser looks like?
They got to be a bot. The scalper bot that was buying PS5s accidentally bought all the copies of Medium.
Uber's buying their own games.
No, I'm honestly, this is not a joke. No hyperbole. I'm completely confused by the Medium. Flummoxed to the point to where it makes me angry to talk about it, because you know how it is when you are off and everybody else loves a game and you dislike it. As long as you add context and you're like, hey, this was my experience, you can walk away from it. But there's the occasional game, and I'm an egotistical SOB, so most of the time I'm never like questioning myself. I'm like, no. But with the medium, I just knew. Does that make sense? Like I was like, oh, this is the quality. And I put it all, and admittedly, people hated it way worse than I did. But still, like 9 out of 10, by the way, people rated that game above like Alan Wake. And I'm in what world is that? In what world? I would play a backwards compatible on low graphic setting version of Alan Wake 10 times before I'd ever play the medium. It was a perfect name for its game because that's what it was. It was completely just blah. I don't know.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 out of 5. So
right in the middle. Right,
Yeah,
that's technically would be a little bit above middle. Yeah. I don't know.
Here's the thing: is I imagine the average medium purchaser. To answer my own question, I picture kind of Fallout 4, where you have these two characters that look identical, and it's like, you're not the real me, and they get rid of the real person who would logically not buy the medium, and now they're replaced by a synth who is programmed to purchase the medium. That is my
that's the only. It's like Black
purchaser.
Mirror, dude. That's straight up. That's straight up Black Mirror or Upload. Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah, I don't know. But I think Bloober Team's a good example because they obviously work well with Microsoft, and in fact, I think they work better with Microsoft than Remedy does. Have you guys ever noticed? There's something about when Remedy talks about their time with Alan Wake, and we do know they had IP issues with the music and all that stuff, but there's something about it that always makes me feel, when I did the Walking the Walk video, I was looking at interviews and stuff. Maybe that was, obviously it was pre-Phil Spencer, but there's something about it that at times I was like, was that a rough relationship? Like, was that one of those ones where maybe the artists were a little bothered by the pencil pushers, especially back then? I don't remember who was running.
Yeah, I guess not to tie sports too deeply into it. Sometimes I look at what's happening with Microsoft and I think of it a lot like the Mets, where the New York Mets old ownership, even if you don't pay attention to sports, is just this simple. Their old ownership was terrible, and a lot of players did not want to go and come play for them. It's just that simple.
Okay.
It was abysmal. They treated their players like shit. People got injured on the field. And as a lifelong Mets fan, it was terrible. They got a new owner under the name of Steve Cohen. Lots of money, guy's excited. He's been a lifelong Mets fan, 12th richest person on the planet. So everyone now wants to play for the Mets. So when you look at that, I compared that situation a lot to where Xbox is. Before, you had Don Matrick and all these people were talking about TV and they had no clue where they were at. That was one era of Xbox. And then you've got now Phil Spencer coming in. You're starting to see the payoff of Game Pass. You're starting to see people talk. You're seeing acquisitions where I feel like we should lean into past experiences because those people who maybe had those interactions are still there. But I also feel like with new ownership comes a new opportunity to say, hey, let's look at this. Because I feel like I was wrong about Square Enix. I was just saying not even a week ago, hey, Square is probably going to sign up with PlayStation. And we just saw 2 things happen this week we'll talk about involving Square Enix right on Xbox.
Yeah.
So I do think that, and I don't think we've seen anything along those lines since the first thing that comes to mind for me is Infinite Undiscovery. It's pretty rare.
Wow, you're pulling out the arcane title
wow.
there. Infinite Undiscovery.
I will also say part of the difference is that Remedy now has leverage, control on their own soul pretty well. So even if they come to Microsoft now, maybe in the past they weren't able to say, oh, we want to do Alan Wake again. They had to do something like Quantum Break or something. But now they can say, look, we did Control. Control did really well under us. We'll come under you in an acquisition, but we're going to keep building out stuff like Control, our Control universe. Just leave us alone. And I think they have more leverage to do that.
Yeah, true.
And Microsoft seems to be more willing to do that now.
Oh man, dude, if I don't know what I would do. I'm just not a touchy-feely guy, man. I don't cry over Pokemon. I just don't give a crap if something's announced. Don't care about Final Fantasy VII Remake. If somebody said there was an Alan Wake 2, I'm telling you, it'd be around the world. People be like, did you guys hear somebody scream? What was that? it would just be me, a little girl. I believe that. Like a little girl. I
believe that.
Go ahead, Mike.
You don't count American Nightmare?
I do, actually. I know everybody else hates but I just count it all, but I don't count that as a sequel, no. But dude, I'm such a big fan. Yeah. It was one of the few games in the world I really claw at a sequel.
Well, let's talk about crossovers a little bit, new ideas. Jason Bull is our third write-in. Shout out to Carrick for making Saturday morning more fun, thinking about what kind of games we could see from Microsoft properties in Discord. It was fun to come up with things like Age of Empires Muso and I almost said Battletoads Metroidvania. Looking forward to what you guys come up with. So I thought this was a good little exercise. Carrick, you and I talked about how we wanted to do a little brief segment on crossovers and collabs between maybe something like Bethesda and Microsoft, and what that would look like, taking a Bethesda IP and tossing to a Microsoft studio or vice versa. So I thought it would be fun to just, pick each other's brains on some of that as we sift through this. So is there any particular property or idea that you fellas have in mind that you would want to sift out there in a hope that maybe Microsoft does it?
Any for you, Mike? I know this is sort of putting you on the spot, but
so I'll say not even sort of moving between, but there was scuttle that Konami was being more open to licensing out its properties since they weren't doing anything with them.
right.
And so I'd like to see somebody like get Castlevania out there. I feel like Silent Hill is going to go to PlayStation somebody.
Right.
But yeah, get Castlevania out there, or Contra. The guys that did what was it, Blazing Chrome, over at the Arcade Crew, get them on an actual Contra game, like, and just put it in there. You get a nice little Game Pass hit. Here's a new Contra, guys. Have some fun. That's the kind of stuff I like to see.
I think
like,
Castlevania
not everything has to be big.
Done by id. Something totally crazy that you just don't expect. Because I want mixes. Like I like we've talked about this. I want crazy shit. And whoever that was, Maddie, who said RTS Elder Scrolls hit it off right away. Like that's the kind of idea that would
just a comment.
Can you imagine what people? I mean, that would be like people would just be like, wait, Rise of, instead of like Age of Empires or Rise. What's the other one that they do? But anyway, Age of Empires is the big one. Like Age of Empires, just Age of Elders, and imagine that music starting. And you're like, what's this? And it's like, oh, that's Age of Elders. That's, yeah. And it's like, and then you look down and it's an RTS. What the hell? People, now, admittedly, some people be like, it's not a first person. They'd be complaining. But whatever.
Nah.
But to me, I was talking to your Discord about it. We were talking about, like, I'm not a big fan of Dynasty Warriors, but that came up. Those, what are they called? Musu or
Muso.
Yeah. Those were brought up a lot, which makes perfect sense. Actually, I had not thought of that, but I think that makes perfect sense. And then the big one that popped up was Killer Instinct, but with just all the Microsoft properties now. Just be like, grab everybody. Like what's the one for Nintendo? Smash Brothers. But a Killer Instinct version, because Killer Instinct came and went. Where did that go?
I've been saying that for so long that these companies need to stop playing around and everyone needs to make their own Smash Bros. Like, like PlayStation did it, and I thought they did it well.
Yeah, they did, and you don't see a lot of Mario, or you see a lot of Mario Kart remakes. Companies try Mario Kart, Sonic. Even Skylanders had a kart section, but a lot of them don't do a Smash Brothers.
I remember those days. The days of cart everything.
There was Mario Kart. There was a Mario Kart ripoff in Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Or
yes.
Remember? And they had they also had Puzzle Fighter, Mortal Kombat. And you're just like, dude,
that game was awesome.
That was back in the day when Boone was not happy just doing one game, and all the games had 3 games in them. They'd be the normal fighting game. They'd be and 2 other, and you were just like, the dude was crazy. He was like, yeah. One game's not enough for us.
There was one, I think it was Armageddon, where it was like an adventure mode beat 'em up that you'd run around and fight, and then you'd actually do like side scrolling fights as well. It was awesome.
Super racist though. Wow. My wife's Chinese.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember playing it with her, and in one place they eat your dog. You're searching for somebody who eats your dog. Now, admittedly, that's not necessarily racist, because they do, everybody has different culinary habits wherever they live, but the way it was treated was pretty bad. And I remember my wife was like, damn, that's not really that cool. She laughed, but at the same time I was like, yeah, now that probably wouldn't be done. But ignoring that, those were awesome, man. Those were great, seeing all those titles in under one thing. So
yeah,
what were you gonna say?
And that was that old generation. Like, we can't do but you can now. You can do that.
You can
have some fun with it. Like, maybe not like NetherRealm specifically, but like if you got Mortal Kombat, let people play with it. License it out to some indies.
Right.
See what happens. What happens.
That's what Zelda did with what was it? Crypt of the Necromancer or whatever. And they did a Zelda.
Crypt of the Necrodancer thing with the Zelda version. But
gotcha.
I made the argument a while ago with Star Wars back before they, decided to open up for like Ubisoft and some others, or even Marvel or whatever. Just like, look, if you're sitting on IPs, license them out to some indies.
Yeah,
There's some indies that'll play around with them and have fun. And if they're bad, who cares? It'll come and go, and it's done.
If there's anybody who can prove who cares, it's Games Workshop, by the way. If nobody understands what I'm talking about, Track Games, they're the most prestigious of asshats in the way they've gone, no one can touch it, everybody can touch it. Nobody can touch it, back to now everybody can. And I can tell you, we all say, oh, this game was terrible back in the day, and then we buy the new Space Marine game, which, by the way, was awesome. Or, you like, they are all over the place. And I think all of these companies are so worried about their IPs, they hold them forever. And you're like, dude, seriously? Now's the time, man. Now's the time. And why is it that like Disney seems to be leading things? We don't want a world where Disney's leading things, but they are. They're letting people do stuff. There's so many
Warhammer games that people don't like. I don't think people realize that Necromunda Underhive or whatever it was called was a Warhammer 40K game.
It wasn't very well reflected because people don't realize Warhammer has 8,000. Well, look at Darktide, the new Vermintide. Maddie and I have talked about that. It's Darktide, which is Warhammer, but Warhammer 40,000 is usually ranged. So the idea of like a bunch of people coming up and saying, like, you're going to try to figure out how to fit that in the Vermintide fighting scheme, but a lot of people have no clue that that's Warhammer 40,000 or that they're really connected. So there's it's going to be fun though. It's going to be fun.
Number 4, hello, Mr. Carrick Plays and Maddie with ACG, as well as Mike. Hope your day is mediocre with a few slightly above average moments. It's my first time writing into any Last Stand Media podcast, though I've written into Ham a few times. Thank you. And I just wanted to ask what you see in the future for id under Xbox. More Doom, or will we see id try something new? Personally, I'd love to see a Halo side game where we have a lone soldier squaring off against the Flood. The gameplay might be a little bit different for the series, as Halo isn't as fast-paced as something like Doom, but I just think it would be cool to see what id could do with the Halo license. Thanks for leading my way over here to Last Stand Media, gents. Defining Duke's Secret Symbols and Knockback have joined my array of weekly podcasts alongside Ham and a few others, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you on Chem Talk. You're always writing in for Ham Radio, so we're happy to see you here as well. Very. We still have one more question after this, and then we will want to get into the news, but real quickly, do you fellas think that id should even touch Halo? Because I think there's a completely different speed there that I don't know. It's something different is good, but at times I'm hesitant about that. So where do you stand on it?
I think they would probably fix Quake or do another Doom before they would jump to something else. Like, I think they would probably do one of their own properties, like Rage or something like that, because they did Rage 2, then they did Doom, and I guess you can count Quake Champions in there, but
oh my god,
like I think they'll probably go back to one of their own properties, probably Quake or another Doom.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I wouldn't want them to really go into Halo. Feels way different than like they can help each other figure out aiming and stuff, but Halo's, that's not really an issue. Right? And movement in Halo, I like the way it feels versus Doom, and I like Doom as well. They're just different style of games, so I wouldn't want to see them.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, and I think you want to, like, we were just talking about licensing, like, let people play around with the IP, but Halo is one of those that I think they need to focus it down, get it pure, get it right. Like, if Infinite hits, then you can go around and play, but you need to, like, this is Halo.
Yeah.
Again.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think ultimately that Halo would benefit from not another first-person shooting spinoff, but something entirely different. Like, I think that's what the appeal of Halo Wars is just something like that. It's completely off the beaten path. Plus, I think, if anything, you would likely see a Halo game on id Tech, not a Halo game by id in particular. I mean, it could be, but I just think id Tech using or building a Halo game would be interesting on a graphical standpoint.
Anything would be more interesting than Infinite.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, continue.
Number 5, and then we will hop into the news. James says, good afternoon. I love this podcast and all Last Stand Media has to offer. I appreciate the honest opinion about the gaming industry that's unapologetic. However, I need to state something I found quite irksome. The excitement you both have expressed towards Microsoft just swinging their Windows money dick around and overpaying an insane amount to gobble up Bethesda and their IP is something I have to take umbrage with, especially when they have struggled to manage just their own IP and studios that they already have. I understand the business. I understand the huge appeal of Game Pass. I have loved Xbox content in the past. This move just feels like Microsoft attempting to steamroll competitors versus actually competing by putting out quality games at launch, not patched to greatness a year later. If Sony did purchase Rockstar like the rumor suggested a very long while back and made GTA 6 an exclusive, the negative pushback would be monumental and frankly a dick move by Sony. Yet, many seem stoked Microsoft has just overpaid to lock up software from a traditionally third-party publisher and developer, making something like Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive the Xbox ecosystem. Even my fridge can play Skyrim. Soon PlayStation might not. This is, of course, just my opinion. I'm fortunate to be in a place where I could hunt for a Series X and afford it if I want to. I just think this is a dangerous precedent going forward. Keep making the best podcast around and stay adequate, not too good. What do you guys make of James' words? I have some thoughts, but I want to hear what you guys have to say.
You guys can go ahead first. I'm going to let my puppies in. I'll be right back.
All right, Mike?
I will say, look, at the end of the day, like I can get there a lot of talk about dangerous precedent and whatnot, that it can be seen as a dick move. But in this case, we did hear that Bethesda was looking to be sold. So someone was going to buy them. It's just a matter of, is that going to be Sony? Is that going to be Microsoft? Is that going to be Tencent or Epic or whoever? So someone was going to buy them, and whoever was going to buy them is going to use that acquisition to improve their own standing. So, like, yeah, you can call it a dick move, but it's kind of like people had an issue with Disney and Fox, but Fox had been trying to sell itself for like a year before that happened. Disney was just the one that made, like, someone was buying that company. That wasn't a beautiful, perfect world where the company was going to stay there. Like, companies want to be bought. It's going to happen. It does suck. I get that. I understand. But at the end of the day, like they wanted to get sold. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And Microsoft was the one that bought them, and you can't fault, well, I mean, you can if you want to, but you can't fault a company for acquiring another one and then using that to improve their own platforms and their own business. That's just the way it works. So, I mean, like, I get it. Like, if you don't have an Xbox or an Xbox Series X, and it does suck. I'm not gonna lie to you and say it doesn't suck. But also at the same time, like, on the flip side, maybe you got companies like, man, I really liked Insomniac doing Sunset Overdrive on Xbox, but they just got acquired. I mean, they got acquired a couple of years ago by Sony. They're doing Spider-Man, which you can only get on PlayStation. So the only difference is scale. So like, it sucks. I get it. I think some of the games, like, you'll probably still be able to get on PlayStation. I think Elder Scrolls is going to be one of those, but if the rest of Bethesda games end up being Xbox only, I get it sucks, but it's the way it is, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. When it comes to steamrolling the competition, I mean, that's what I think Microsoft wants and what PlayStation would want as well. The thing that I celebrate this acquisition is I will be the first to say, I think if PlayStation, say, were the ones to hypothetically acquire Bethesda, I probably wouldn't be as excited because there's a lockdown with PlayStation. I fundamentally believe there is a difference in Xbox exclusives versus the accessibility of PlayStation. Just the reality of it is that on PlayStation, you can only get it through their console. But on Xbox, it's PC, console. There's the buy-in plans for 2 different consoles, which makes it a little more easier to stomach. So you're not paying just, say, $300 or $600 out of pocket. You can do monthly payment which helps. There's streaming if you ever really wanted to. You get Game Pass, you stream it to a tablet, you have a controller, boom. They're doing the smart TV app. That is why the celebration is different, James. So I totally understand where you're coming from. But the difference here is now you have a company that was straying from the path. They have the potential here to get back on track. Not only that, but they don't have to worry about some of the as we were talking about with other companies, like the logistics of it all. They have to just make stuff. And Bethesda was at their best when, from I always say Morrowind to Skyrim, when they were just making things and they were just building up. I think they can return to that form. And because their games are more accessible, and you can literally own a PlayStation and have a Game Pass subscription and have access to everything. And I do think that is way more exciting because it's almost a have your cake and eat it too. You don't have to get 2 consoles and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You can say, I'm only interested in Elder Scrolls 6 when that comes out, buy Game Pass for a month or two and snag it. And that's it. Like, that's all it goes down to. And so that's why I sit on the side of the fence of a little more excitement from an acquisition like this. Whereas, yeah, if it were PlayStation or Tencent especially, I'd be like, oh boy, here we go. Because there's just a difference in approach. And I do like Microsoft's more open, streamable approach compared to that of PlayStation's.
Yeah, I wouldn't say excitement for me, but it is what it is. It is what it is, man.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, gents, shall we get into the news?
Oh, yeah, I forgot to say mine real quick.
Oh,
I
sorry.
went out.
I didn't know if you had more to say.
Yeah, I went out last week and I bought a surfboard so that I could surf on the tears of all of these people bitching. I am going to hang 10 on your tears. Here's why. We don't know what would have happened if Sony and Bethesda got together. It could have been just as good. Like Mike said, obviously Bethesda wanted to be bought. Also, you can tell the way they met up and how they've worked together in the past, it works. And I think Insomniac, despite having done Sunset Overdrive, appears to be very happy with working with Sony. And I would rather have 2 companies that liked working with one another and excited. And you have a company that says, hey, we now know the 10-year plan for the first time ever. We know a console's actual. And that, by the way, if you don't know what he meant, go look at what Cliff Basinski stated when he was working with the Xbox 360. And they had the difference between 256 megs and 512. And they made them an entire, I think it was Gears of War level with both, and said to Microsoft, here's what you'll get. And Microsoft stated, oh, damn, okay, we'll put the extra memory in there and we'll just eat it. And I think that companies like that, when they work well together, that's why Epic and Microsoft worked well together. That's like, it's just some companies work better together. And I think it makes sense. As for what you won't be getting in the future, first, whenever anybody says concern or worry, have concern about car wrecks and cancer. Don't have concerns about video games. Who gives a shit? Tomorrow will come up. Some indie will come up and they'll have a great game and that'll replace your game. I've played Elix and I've played Vampire more than I've played Elder Scrolls, if you combine those two. And 2 Worlds, if you had 2, even though it's a shit game. But you get my drift. There's a lot of titles out there, and there's a lot of these companies that are going to use these gaps, and I'm excited for them, by the way. So if you hear excitement, it's because I'm happy, some good news, and people are enjoying working together. But I'm also ecstatic because this also can mean a company might be approached by Sony and might get the special attention that maybe Sony now needs to shine on them, and Nintendo as well. We like to pretend Nintendo isn't part of this, and they aren't in the same way, but Nintendo as well. So yeah, I am excited for it. But I would also be excited if Sony bought them. It would be a different type, and it would be how they explained it too.
Yeah. I think I sit on the side of the fence. I'd be a little less than, but I get where you're coming from.
I probably would be too, but again, it was more about when they sat down and talked, and I was like, I get it. Mm-hmm. You know, like, you know how good NBA players, when they get together and you can tell, and you're like, oh, they even though Kobe and what's his name, Shaq did great, even though they, were prickly towards one another, as the saying would go. But you get a lot of teams that really like working together. And I like that, man. I think it's so business-like. Why not celebrate when it's a little bit of 2 people coming together and say, hey, man, let's do this. This sounds awesome.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's get into the news then. Number 1, it is a Game Pass filled week. It has been a monstrous week, in fact, and change for Xbox Game Pass, solidifying yet again that this is the best deal in gaming. After adding a metric ton of games on a near bi-weekly basis, plus all Bethesda games, and then some. More huge moves are being made. For starters, Outriders, the RPG shooter, set in a distant future, developed by People Can Fly, who's known for Bulletstorm, and published by Square Enix, is now a Day 1 Game Pass launch. This was teased on Friday, March 12th by the Game Pass Twitter account and confirmed the following Monday. For those of you who listen on ham radio, Carrick and I called this. The kicker: this is only arriving via console and cloud Game Pass. There is no word on what is happening with PC. Outriders arrives on Xbox Game Pass April 1st. Square Enix's work did not stop with Outriders, a game that strongly benefits from dipping into the Game Pass player base. Octopath Traveler, the beautiful 16-bit JRPG on Nintendo Switch and PC, is making its debut on Xbox and only Xbox. This marks the first time in many years that Xbox scored a JRPG before PlayStation has. Octopath Traveler jumps onto Game Pass for both PC and console on March 25th. And it did not stop there. Undertale had settled in on Game Pass as well, so it's available now. The post mentions, quote, similar to previous console releases, the Xbox version features its own little shrine, one might say, of exclusive content to look out for, end quote. So Undertale was on PC Game Pass and then left July of 2020. There are some more noteworthy additions to Game Pass coming throughout the next 3 weeks. The week of March 15th has, like I mentioned, Undertale, Empire of Sin on cloud, console, and PC. Nier Automata's coming to PC, Star Wars Squadrons on console, and Torchlight 3. These will all arrive March 18th. Then you've got the week of March 22nd, Genesis Noir on console and PC, Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire Ultimate Edition on PC, Superland on PC, Yakuza 6, The Song of Life on cloud, console, and PC, and Octopath Traveler, as I had mentioned. Lastly, on the week of March 29th, you have Narita Boy on cloud, console, and PC, and then you have Outriders on both cloud and console. Let's start off with the write-ins. Sean Mason says, howdy, gentlemen. On ham, Carrick correctly predicted that Outriders would be coming to Game Pass day and date with its release. This is a huge get for Game Pass. Speaking anecdotally, many of my friends were hesitant about the game, but now they'll be giving it a shot. If Square Enix sees success from this Game Pass release, could we see more of Square Enix's catalog and future catalog end up on Game Pass, maybe even day and date? I'm thinking this fall, Avengers could be a Game Pass game to recoup some of the major losses for Square Enix. Best, Sean M. A mouthful there, gents, and a lot of value with that. What do we make of some of these additions? What are you excited about? And of course, what Sean's asking is, do we see Square Enix and Microsoft continuing to get together for more releases? Or is this just a right match for a game like Outriders where they identified some hesitation? There is excitement, but this isn't going to be your big game of the year title. But it is something good and worth looking at, and Game Pass is perfect for something like that. What do you make of it? Whichever one of you wants to go first.
You want to give it a go, Mike, or you want me to go?
You go first.
So Outriders, it wasn't because of the PR. I think that also fits perfectly with Game Pass. I do think that Game Pass has good PR, though, with any company doing those type of games. And you will hear that. Like, you will hear companies talking about, well, you get it on here and there's money to be made and blah, blah, blah. It does sound like it was a later deal, but I don't necessarily know if Square was looking at Outriders and was like, it's not going to work. We need to go to Xbox. I do believe, though, that Avengers is going free to play for sure. For sure. Avengers will go free to play. I'm going to make a guess. Avengers will go free to play before this year ends. And I would assume it'll be in September or August. That, especially with their change to the grind, which, by the way, actually, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's I said as much on Twitter. Like, people were like, why are they adding all this grind? I was like, that's the free to play move right there. Like, immediately, as soon as they add it.
Right? Yeah, it's the free to play move. That's so. But I will say all this other stuff. Dude, every developer I talk to is just really happy about getting on Game Pass. Like, it always is a positive. There's really no negative to it. They won't go into it if they think they'll sell more. Well, depending on whatever deal they make. Like the Ashen developers, I know they made a different deal than others. There's at least 3 types of deals that we now know about. So to me, man, I'm just happy they're getting their games out there. And some of those games like Supraland, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Super or Supraland?
Supraland.
Okay. I haven't played that, but I heard, like, that's my Discord was saying it was awesome. So it was like, that's a game that me, even though I love games, I just didn't get a chance to check out. that is a game that is now for sure being checked out. And I am one of the people that will buy a game on Game Pass. I for sure am that person. If I like a game a lot, even if I don't think it'll leave, sometimes I'll buy it. You know, it just depends.
Yeah, because you never know when it's going to leave.
You never know. And I'm okay also giving them a bone. Like we've talked about this before, like with MMOs, for instance, I play a lot of free to play and I've spent way more than $60 on a free to play because I enjoy it. I get when I'm at 200 hours on a free to play, I'm like, okay, I'll buy a cape. I'm never going to wear it, but I'll buy this cape because like, I mean, they deserve a little bit. I mean, Christ. So
Right.
I can't see any negatives. I think all those are awesome. Undertale, I have still never played. That's my gaming sin, I guess, because supposedly it's really good, but I've never touched that game.
It's got some cool systems for sure, but I'm not as in love with it as other people.
Gotcha.
But it's got some cool choice for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say Outriders is a good one just because I remember. When I played the preview back in the day, and at the time I said, like, nah, of the two games, because I think we were just also playing Avengers at that time. I was like, of the two games that Square Enix has coming, like Outriders is the better game.
Yeah.
And I said that, and that was before Avengers came out, I think.
Oh, damn. And that was also before all these switches on Outriders, too, that they did. They said there was some balance stuff that they fixed.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that was like way back last year, and I was like, oh, this is the better like online game that they have. So I'm glad to see one that they're being smart about. They put out the demo, which I think gave people a good feel for the game, and then you got that stuff carrying over. They got cross progression. You gotta get that cross save in there, though. Square Enix.
Yeah, for sure.
You gotta get that cross because I'm gonna play on PC, but you know maybe I wanna jump from Xbox Cloud playing mobile over to the PC version, like especially if you're gonna tie an account to it. Give me that cross save. But Outriders is a smart move for Microsoft and for Square Enix just to get that a little bit more visibility and stuff out there. And there's some other smart ones out there like Torchlight 3, which I think came and went for a lot of people. And getting that nice front on the Game Pass page will probably at least give them a little pop to keep things going. Yakuza 6, which is a fantastic game. A lot of people being able to play that on the entire range of Game Pass is just going to be fantastic, especially if you've never played a Yakuza game. 6 is a good place to start.
Good place to start. Interesting.
Yeah, because it's its own thing. So it gives you the feel, the tone of Yakuza, but you don't necessarily need to have played Kiwami or any of the previous games with Kiryu. This is a new cast. It's its own thing, and I actually think the RPG combat system
I think you're
helps
talking
it.
about Like a Dragon. That's 7.
Oh,
You're talking about like
I was thinking.
Yeah, 7's already out. Hey, they already got 7.
7 is already out.
7's out. Yeah,
and
you were thinking
6.
7. So they got that. No, now they're adding
Now they got 6.
Yeah.
Well, once you get that, you can't play 6 without going through Kiwami. And
That's when
Okay,
I
I was
heard
gonna say, I was about to
Maddie
hop
go,
in.
and I was like, wait a minute, are we talking about the? Yeah, okay, gotcha.
No, I got confused. That was me.
Remind me, who's in what?
you're good.
Who's in what? So how does if you were to do the chronological for Yakuza, what is that? How does that go?
0, Kiwami, which is 1, Kiwami 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
That's
It's
chronological.
actually a series that goes in the proper order.
It goes in the proper
Doesn't,
order.
Like have
You mean it's not
3
Kingdom
is
Hearts
actually
33
1,
and a third, Shadow Heart, Uber,
Yeah.
Tax Evasion?
or Metal Gear, which is like just like it's the 5th one, but it's actually next to Peace Walker or whatever it's called. It's like, Christ, man.
I will say, if you are getting into the series, I would not put 0 first.
Gotcha.
Because it's such a good game, it will ruin you for Kiwami and Kiwami 2.
Dude,
So
0's good.
Start with
Interesting.
Kiwami,
Wow.
work your way
Yeah.
through. You can probably skip over 3 through 5 if you don't care that much, but Kiwami 1 and 2, then 0, then 6.
Interesting. Yeah. See, I played Kiwami 1 and 2. I have not gotten 0 yet.
Oh,
and
dude,
I've heard
0 is
everyone keeps saying it's
insanity.
that dominant.
It is. I had a hard time going to, because remember, I started late on Yakuza, even though I'm a Shenmue fan, and that's obviously like its great grandfather. when you think about it and the way they play.
That's that old.
I waited for a long time, and man, I wish I hadn't. I mean, in fact, so there were times where I didn't get a PlayStation system day and date, back in the day. If I had known that, I would have done it right away just to do the Yakuza games. They're that good. Like they are, to me, they're a system seller. The Yakuza games are. They're fantastic.
Yeah. I love that series so much. It's intimidating to go through each and every one after you finish Kiwami 1 and 2. There's just so much more there.
Yeah. You can, like I said, you can probably
skip.
They did the remasters for 3 through 5, but you don't necessarily need to play them unless you're deep. You can go to 0 or 6.
That's good news. I might look into that.
I would say 0 before 6, just because 6 is like
the end.
The end of Kiryu's story.
Right. Gotcha. What do you guys feel about Octopath Traveler coming to Xbox?
That's wild.
I mean, that is, oh my gosh, dude. I'm a big Octopath fan, so when I saw this, I was like, yeah, buddy, let's go. This was hype for me. Arguably more exciting than Outriders. Outriders is cool because day one, but seeing Octopath, this 16-bit JRPG, beautiful art, made in Unreal Engine 4. It's a looker, despite how it blends all these different art styles together. And then the idea that people are going to be exposed to that really excites me. And I can't wait to see more people talk about it, because I think it is going to be the one that sneaks up on folks in the Game Pass library of all the new additions. Everyone's talking Outriders. I think most who are Game Pass subscribers that are in our circle are going to take a look at that game. But I do think Octopath's going to, for lack of better words, shock some people.
And it was just Switch,
right?
Right?
Have a good story, but it was Switch, and then they got it to PC.
Oh, they did get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's why not to tie this back to Sega or anything, but it's why I think that you're going to see Persona on at least 4 Gold and on Xbox, because they're doing the same thing, just flip handheld consoles. So instead of Switch, PC, Xbox, you're seeing Vita, PC, and then Xbox. So
now, if they give me Bravely Default 2 and whatever, I mean, they're probably just going to end up calling it Triangle Strategy.
Yeah. Oh my God. Are we talking about the weird named game that they showed a while ago?
Yeah, Project
Triangle Strategy.
Oh my God. How does that even happen? Man. How do you come up with that name? That's on purpose, man. You got it. That's some trolling level crap going on there.
It can be on purpose, because it's horrible for search results, dude. You can't find that game.
It's like naming yourself Prince's symbol, where you can't search it on Google. You know, so you have to you have to be the guy that used to call himself Prince. I don't know. This is just weird.
Brandon Kurtzader wrote in, "Gentlemen, I'm enjoying the podcast. I found your individual YouTube channels just as entertaining. 2 questions. Carrick, I noticed the Superman picture behind you. Please tell me you love Superman Returns on PS2 and 360. And then Maddie and Carrick, as well as Mike, it's nice that Outriders is coming to Game Pass on day 1, but the general reception to the demo has been pretty mixed. So is this a good get or just another medium? Thanks, Brandon." Carrick, first of all, do you like Superman Returns?
Video games?
It's a game.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I don't even remember playing. Yeah, I don't remember playing.
I never played it.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Superman, other than a couple comics.
So then let's hop into whether or not Outriders is really the good get.
No,
I mean it made a lot of noise, but did you say no? Did I hear that right?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's not that good of a game.
Elaborate, please.
It's just not a good game.
Wow.
It's not. Its shooting isn't very good.
Up a little bit.
Its shooting isn't very good. Its level design is absolute shit. I'm so tired of Gears of War temporary walls everywhere. It looks terrible. But here's why it might do really well. That kind of stuff doesn't stop those kind of gamers, man. Dude, Destiny is like, hey guys, we're gonna take all your stuff back and not let you see it. And people are like, thanks, man. Let's buy the next expansion.
Yeah.
It's an abusive relationship.
Dude, really?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have.
Yeah. And so the thing is I may even like it too when I play it. I'm just talking about the demo, but I felt that it was pretty mediocre, and I did not like the level design. However, how many hours was that? Like
2, 3.
Maybe.
Yeah, it was like 3 hours.
Yeah. So that means nothing in the long scheme of things. It could completely change. They could adjust some balancing. So, but that's my thoughts so far. It's not as big of a get, and that people are celebrating more because there's not a lot out right now. That's more of my belief.
Context is everything.
Yeah, on that one.
I see. I thought it was fun to play. So
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I think.
I like.
Yeah,
I
right. I thought it was enjoyable. It's not. I agree with Carrick on level design, especially. You have these you'll walk into an open area and you'll have these very convenient sandbags cropped up over, and you think to yourself, well, why?
Who's the poor schmuck, Maddie? Who gets paid?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if that was your job? They're like, dude, they keep coming. Yeah, we know. Here's another sandbag. And you're like, please, no. Any other job. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
So I agree entirely. Yeah. And there's some weird jank with the loading screens that the developers did go out of their way to explain. Yeah. So there's some quirks there, but I do think there's a fun game to play. And if anyone enjoys, I'd say, Mass Effect combat with a blend of Gears of War, you'll probably enjoy playing Outriders. And that's why you're probably not seeing Outriders come to PC Game Pass. This was something that disgruntled a lot of people, or left some people disgruntled, and I understand why, but I think it's the idea that you want to dip into a player base and get people talking, but not ostracize what is likely going to be the place that it sells best on. I think the Outriders demo fell into the top charts somewhere on Steam. So I think Square Enix identified that, said, hey, let's do Game Pass on console, get more people involved there. Maybe they like what we're doing. They see our long-term plan for the game and they buy it just to keep it because it's not going to be on Game Pass forever. And that's kind of what they had in mind. Whereas PC, they may feel they have some more guaranteed purchases sitting there. I don't know. I think the game's going to do better and be an open guilty pleasure for the industry. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting.
Do fine. I don't think it's an amazing game. And in fact, one of the things that I like dinged it on back in that thing when I said it visually is just kind of like, yeah. Okay.
It's bland.
But I enjoyed playing it. It's a fun game. Not entirely down the middle, probably a little bit more on the positive side for me, but I think it'll do fine. Like I said, there's nothing else to play.
Mike, did you find, on both of you, did you guys find, so the weapons in Destiny, it's like a little bit higher damage, a little bit blah, 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 and then maybe something. And it's more about combining everything. I felt like in Outriders, the one big positive that people got was that the weapons can dramatically change the way you play. And so I could see that paying off. Sorry, go ahead.
Also, one thing that they missed that's not in the demo, but is a thing, is their mod and crafting system.
Yeah, right.
So all that stuff you guys haven't really gotten to play with at all. Gotcha. Whereas I at least got to see it and mess with it a little
Maddie
bit.
played it a year ago at something, didn't you, Maddie? Did you get?
Yeah, I think we're talking about the same event in August, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you guys got more hands-on than I did with it.
Yeah, because August is right, because I played it after I had played Avengers at E3.
Right.
But before Avengers had actually come out. So
do you guys think the weapon and those special abilities that are built into the weapon will help it then in the long run? Because that is, to me, that is a plus, because that's what you're getting anyway. And some games don't do a great job on that.
And it also helps. So things that were in that preview that weren't necessarily in. There's the crafting. We also got a lot more of the skills to play with. The tree was filled out, whereas in the demo you can only put like 2 points, 3 points or something.
Yeah, it's not much. Yeah.
Like not a lot. You can't really get into the skill tree. And also there is a more interesting boss fight.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. That sounds cool.
I think it really depends, in my opinion, on variety. I think variety is the spice of life in these games. And so I truly believe that as long as these effects continue to vary and they don't become very much one trick.
Yeah, right.
Which this game seems to really be hammering on. I always think of that post-launch video they were talking about, saying we're not going to reuse content for our post game.
Right, yeah.
And I thought that was very confident to say, because it's not easy to do. But also, I think it can indicate maybe some of their design philosophies, and if that carries over into their weapons, which one of the positive things that came out of this game was, hey, I felt level 1, the weapon I picked up did XYZ compared to this other weapon. So as long as that carries into the stretch, really in the mid-game, not when you're at the power curve at the top and you've got the gear solidified.
When you actually want to use it and you're still sort of fresh, you mean? Yeah.
You're figuring it out. Yeah, and you could see something, and I think the best thing with RPGs is seeing a thing and seeing its potential, but knowing it's not for your build, and that may fortify, hey, I'm going to go back and try this class with these weapons. So if they can nail the variety, I think, like, once again, I think this can be an open guilty pleasure where the level design's kind of, it's doo-doo. And story might not blow your mind, but you got yourself some fun gameplay, good builds, and good skills. And I think that goes a very long way with people.
And it's $60, not games as a service, right? It's just $60.
Not
it's just straight. You pay it and it's done.
That's a big deal. Go ahead, Mike.
The story was the one. Like I hate every character. I hate you.
See, man, are you talking about Outriders?
Yes.
So it's funny. I liked the I don't know what he is, but the guy who looked like he was from Deus Ex. And he grabs you in the demo. He grabs you by the neck at the end of the demo. I actually thought that guy was cool, but I guess I'm the only one.
Yes. No. He's cool. But most of the other was like your main character, and most of the other people are like smug, cynical, like salty, like just like.
I love it that she saves you by putting you in cryostasis, then treats you like just a bitch when you get out. She saves you, and then you get out, and she's like, "What can you do for me?" And you're like, "Dude, what? Well, why do you hate me all of a sudden? Like, I don't have any clue what's happening." It was a dark starting too, where they were flamethrowering people who were dying, and like that was, to me, was interesting just from a whoa, that's not what I expected kind of standpoint. So there was some interest there at least, but we'll have to see. I mean, Division 2 also I think nailed it in those kind of shooters, so it's going to have to come up against something like that for me too to see if I want to re-engage with it.
In comparison,
in some ways,
Number 2, continuing on with Game Pass, some relieving news has arrived for those signed up to Xbox Game Pass on PC. For those who don't know, problems are arising with getting EA games on Game Pass for PC, mostly thanks to Origin, which does not support connecting with a Microsoft account. This means that EA games need to be uploaded to the Microsoft Store, which is why months after EA Play was rolled into Game Pass, that players on the platform have nothing to show for it. I'm going to try to say this name. Agior Rementi Lumia is the eagle-eyed gamer who spotted this. EA is quietly beginning to list their EA titles on the Microsoft Store, as they are not meant to be public yet. The games are Jade Empire Special Edition and 2 Populous games, and there are many titles being published as we speak under the codename Rosebud. And then today, as we record this show, since teaming up with Electronic Arts, we've been working to provide Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and PC members an EA Play membership at no additional cost. We want to thank the PC community for your patience over the last few months as we have worked to deliver a better Xbox app experience for EA Play. We are excited to share that starting tomorrow, March 18th at 2 p.m. Pacific Time, Xbox Game Pass PC and Ultimate members will be able to enjoy all the benefits of EA Play on Windows 10, including more than 60 of EA's biggest titles, such as Jedi Fallen Order, FIFA 20, which I don't know if FIFA was originally a PC game, so that's kind of interesting in its own right, Titanfall 2, and Need for Speed Heat, as well as some titles from EA's most popular franchises like Battlefield, Madden NFL, Command & Conquer, and The Sims. There are rewards each month from your favorite EA games. March rewards include Gold Team Ultimate or Gold Team Fantasy packs and EA Play Celebration pack for Madden, and an N7 weapon charm for Apex Legends. And starting on day 1 of EA Play on PC with Game Pass, members can play the new-to-playlist title Star Wars Squadrons on PC and console. Master the art of starfighter combat and the authentic piloting experience. Feel the adrenaline of the first-person multiplayer space dogfights alongside your squadron and buckle up in a thrilling Star Wars story. So EA Play finally makes its way to Game Pass. I was not aware until Outriders made its way to console Game Pass, but PC Game Pass is staggered in some of its releases, and some people were getting a little annoyed with that. It's hard to complain because of all the value that's there, but I wanted to once again pass it to both of you on what you think about the late addition to PC Game Pass. Is it an easier pill to swallow? Because I think in one sense it's easy to say if you're experiencing all of those great games and you're basking in the glory of New Octopath and Outriders. It's like, they're fine, but they're not experiencing that. So do you think it should be a more even playing ground? Did Microsoft not prepare properly if they didn't know, hey, Origin's not going to connect to our Microsoft accounts, which is going to hold this up? Where do you all stand on this issue here that has now been solved, I should mention?
I mean, I think there's already some games where you have to wait for the PC version to come out. So for me, this is just more of that, and I know it's going to be something that will get fixed over with time. But I am glad that that stuff is now coming, especially there are certain games. I think Need for Speed Heat was a game that EA and company had sort of maligned the series for a while.
Right.
I think Heat is not perfect, but a lot better than the previous entries. And I think people should use the new Game Pass chance to pick that up and play it. And so I'm glad a lot of people get to play some of these games. Fallen Order, of course, sold already well, so whatever. But there's some smaller EA stuff that sort of fell through the cracks, and Need for Speed Heat is probably the first one that comes to mind for me. So get in on it, PC gamers.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I would say that the only one that matters is now it is The Sims, and hey, it's here now. And dude, Sims will always probably be my favorite game of all time. I'm not going to lie. So more people who can, yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm not gonna. It probably is.
Look, the Sims is dope. The problem is there's just so much. Many Sims packs.
There's so many Sim packs. Yeah, and I still have 3 and every adventure pack and Sim pack installed on one drive because that's how much it is. It's like. Each version 3 got huge and 4 is obvious as well. But no, seriously, it's good. It's just like you wake up, the issues you've had, they're sort of somewhat gone, and you get these titles. There's a lot there. I know some people didn't pick up Squadrons because they were like, it's not really, it's just a fighting game, right? Maybe it's not for me, but it also has VR support. Probably one of the best VR games you're going to get if you're a fan like I am of VR. So you can jump into VR. And I'm sure we didn't read all the games there, but there's a lot of games that haven't had that crossover. People have complained, like Mike said, and I also viewed it a little bit like I'm waiting for a port. So I almost treated it like a port, whereas like even though it's a platform, it's a port of a platform. I'm just waiting for it to come on the PC. Okay, now it's there. Hopefully that just happens much, much less now, which is, it's only good news, really.
Yeah, I think out of everything that they added, if anyone here is listening has not played Jade Empire, go give that a look, please. It's an old BioWare RPG from 2005, steampunk, Chinese, magic. There's just a lot happening there. Imagine if BioWare totally mastered the idea of action combat alongside like the choices that you saw in KOTOR. It's really, really good stuff, and it's supremely overlooked. Other games that I would recommend, of course, Jedi Fallen Order, and there are plenty of others
That's just
in
crazy.
here. I do wonder. I was going to say, I do wonder if Alice Madness Returns is in here, because I know that's, I think, just on consoles. I don't know if that ever released on PC, but that would be one I would say, give it a look. But what's great here is that we're starting to see things even up a little bit. But I do understand people's frustration. You see, what happens is I think a lot of people miss the things like when I list out the Game Pass editions, one of them was Code Vein, which was already on console since when I fired up my Series X and signed up to Game Pass again. I saw Code Vein was there, and then months later we're doing this show, and it's like Code Vein 3 months later is on PC now. I totally get the frustration, but people also have to understand that when these companies make deals, there's a degree of valuing your product enough to make people anticipate it, and so they almost create an artificial anticipation by making you wait. That's what happens. Like, they probably could drop something like this on Game Pass, but they know that the desire will keep you hooked into the service, and these companies will all benefit from it. And I don't know if that's the silver bullet of Game Pass. I think that's an easier pill to swallow than a price increase or something along those lines. That's how I personally view it. But ultimately, this is all good news.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Carrick said, you treat it somewhat like a port situation. And even the person was talking just before this, like the issue was sort of getting Origin to play with the rest of it. So like making games is hard, porting games is hard. And then sometimes you get situations like this where like just the accounts don't match up and they're just trying to get all that worked out. So like I understand the frustration, but also like it'll happen eventually. We just got Forza Horizon 4
on Steam.
On Steam, so I'm like,
what a crazy year this has been, guys. And that's the honest truth. Ignoring Xbox stuff, it's already crazy for everybody else. But if you add all of this and last 6 months of last year in, would anybody have woke up and been like, Cyberpunk's gonna dud out but sell well? Like, there's a lot of stuff that has completely shocked me. Some stuff hasn't shocked me so much, but a lot of stuff has. And a lot of it is like offerings. I mean, we all complain about gaming being expensive or $70 games from Sony now or whatever, you know. But at the same time, there's some really cool places to get free games too, you know. Especially if you want to sign your blood away for 10 cents, you can always sign up for Epic and get free. I'm just joking. Somebody's going to take that too serious. By the way, Mike, somebody's going to ask what headphones you're wearing. Can you just say?
These are the Asus ROG Delta S, brand newish headset that I was just. There we go.
I know, because they're LED, and people are always looking at my green glow and teasing me that you've got the because I have the green screen, you've got the LEDs flashing. Somebody's gonna ask, so I figure, you know what? Instead of having to answer it 500 times in the comments, we'll just get it out of the way.
Yeah, no, they're real nice too. Yeah.
Number 3, continuing a little bit more with Game Pass. Last week, Xbox bumped the count of Bethesda games on Xbox Game Pass up to a heaping 20. This week, 5 of those are now FPS Boost enhanced on Xbox Series X and S. For those who are new, FPS Boost was introduced by Xbox just around a month ago as we record this episode on March 17th. As the name suggests, it is a way for console gamers to see an increased frame rate. The important back-end detail to note is that Xbox has stated there is zero involvement with the game's code to accomplish this. New to the FPS Boost list are Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Skyrim Special Edition, Prey, and Dishonored Definitive Edition. Nicholas Brillhart writes in, greetings, Maddie, Carrick, and Mike. Microsoft has continued to make strides in backwards compatibility, but as I've been diving back into some of my old favorites, as an unfortunate possibility occurred to me, does Microsoft see the need for traditional remasters anymore? While I certainly see the value in touch-ups to all existing games in the catalog, I'm saddened thinking titles like Banjo-Kazooie, Fallout New Vegas, and everything else under the Microsoft banner will never get the kind of treatment Vicarious Visions gave Crash and Tony Hawk, or Bluepoint gave Shadow of the Colossus and Demon's Souls. This is some interesting food for thought, because I like how Microsoft is doing FPS Boost. I like the idea of invalidating these kind of lazy Skyward Sword-esque remasters that say, hey, we're going to up-res the game, we're going to do nothing with the frame rate, and it's got motion controls, $60, please, thank you. Fuck that. I don't like that, especially when FPS Boost exists. And you have games you can have Oblivion at some point down the line being at 4K 60. Nintendo should be embarrassed at what they're doing, and any company that's trying to sell a port like that for $60 as well should be embarrassed, just because it's not feasible anymore. I think you need to do more. So I agree at the idea if you get something like a Vicarious Visions treatment of Crash or Tony Hawk for one of these titles, like for me it would be Fallout New Vegas. I adore that game, or Fallout 3. Yeah, I would love to see a more deep touch up. And that's the thing is the company's willingness, you might see them pull back a little bit on titles that could just be touched up and re-released because of this, since it's going to, I'd say, necessitate a deeper dive. You're going to need to maybe add content or surface something in there. Yeah. You're going to have to do more than just saying it's 4K, it's 60, enjoy. It's got to go beyond that a little bit more, or it has to be in addition to, so you can touch it up all you want. But I'm starting to be of the mind that there needs to be more there, because with these types of things existing and handing them out for free, like even if you already own these games, you don't have to be in Game Pass, you just own these games, you would get the FPS boost. You would get that auto HDR. You would get these increases here and there. Not that auto HDR, I'm pretty sure PlayStation does something like that. Point being though, is I do think we're starting to see an invalidation of what a traditional remaster is. And I talked a bit about Final Fantasy VII Remake sort of changing how you approach mentally what a remake is, because you think it's just a remake of the base game, and it's not. It's completely different. So it changes how you think about remakes. And I think with FPS Boost and what Xbox is doing, I'm changing the way I think about remasters. But that's where I sit on this whole subject. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, because I'm sure there might be an angle I'm not considering.
Well, before we go, I have to ask you a question, though. Do you think Bethesda isn't going to jump at the chance to sell you 45 other versions of Skyrim? I don't think this is going to stop Fallout 4 Remaster, Remake, Special Edition.
That they don't improve. They will sell you the game again and again without updating the textures.
Or the compressed audio that was in Skyrim Special Edition, where it was like, that was the
on the Switch, that was pretty bad.
That was pretty bad. But anyway, is that I am asking you, Maddie, in particular, because you know Bethesda more than I do. Before we answer, what do you think that in particular this will stop them from doing that? Are you worried
I don't want
about
to say
that?
no, because here's the thing: is with Skyrim, I think it was a very particular case where some things came together, but Bethesda and Pete Hines in particular himself said, "Stop buying it, we'll stop selling it." That type of thing. So he kind of puffed his chest out and said,
"Come on,
try us."
Right.
And it's like, damn,
come on!
He just kicked me right in the stomach.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that I know before Fallout 4 came out, the way they tested the new hardware was they ported Skyrim. They ported Skyrim and they tested a bunch of things on PS4 and Xbox One. And so with that in mind, the port was already done. And so they just sent it to Bethesda Game Studios, Maryland. They added all the new things like volumetric lighting and increased resolution and enhanced textures, all that stuff, and they resold it, and then they ported that same thing to Switch. So I just think that it happened to be one of those things where, we've brought Skyrim over to this new hardware at the right time, and we can just resell it, and then we're going to port it, and then we're going to resell it. Where something like Fallout 4, now it's got FPS Boost, and it does look better on Series X and PC, and there are mods there. What can you repackage and resell for something like that? I feel the path is by pure logic only. By the way, companies often defy simple logic and what would make the most sense for consumers. So make note of that to everyone listening.
Also,
but I would say that basic logic would suggest that they would have to do more. So if it was a Fallout 3 remaster, that's to me a little bit different, because I would like to see what they want to do with something like that. If they're just packaging 3 and New Vegas together, there is going to be that initial like, oh my God, it's happening. And I think it's more exciting for PS4 fans who get some of the things that Xbox has been seeing. It's still at 30. We still have yet to see an FPS boost there. But I think what you're going to rather see is PlayStation and Switch will sell these remasters, but Xbox is going to just give you kind of like what we're seeing with Republic Commando. They're just going to say, it's same as it was. We already have the uncapped frame rate, so FPS is at 60. It already looks good. It's already widescreen. So what are they selling you? And I like that about Xbox right now. And so I hope they kind of stay that path where if they do touch up Fallout 3 and New Vegas, and they're not going to take that deep dive, that at least on the side of things where you have this program of free updates in, that they don't try to just sell you that.
All right.
And I also say that the person sort of touches upon something that they hit there. A lot of people don't realize, like Rose Stark a very long time ago, that porting is still like game development. It's hard to port a game.
Yeah.
In some cases, especially if you're doing the remaster. Like Demon Souls, yes, they had an entire game to work with, but they still had to essentially rebuild that from the ground up, and then also make it sort of touch upon what people remember about the original game. And what they talk in there, and they say Vicarious Visions with Crash and Tony Hawk, or Blue Point with Shadow Colossus, and like those are porting studios. Like some of the Switch stuff, like Panic Button, like Doom, those are studios, and that's what they do. And there's always sort of, for other studios dealing with the remaster, the push and pull between, do you want a remaster of the original Crashes, or are you getting more from Crash 4?
Right.
Yes, Bethesda could go back and remaster, or Obsidian could go back and remaster Fallout New Vegas, sure. But would you rather that happen, or would you rather them work on The Outer Worlds 2? Or Avowed, or whatever instead. There's always that give and take of where you're putting your resources. So I think maybe Microsoft should think about picking up a porting house if that's something that they want to do. Because I'm pretty sure Sony is buying Blue Point at some point.
That's what. We talked about that a couple times. You would think so at some point. I mean, it's like they're a little bit like Bethesda and Microsoft. You can tell. Like it's a solid partnership already.
Yeah. So like that's like Microsoft needs a porting house.
That's a good
more
point.
necessarily than forcing Bethesda to go back and like create a team to bring back an old like.
Good idea.
So
Yeah.
Really good idea.
Different strengths.
I would like that.
Yeah, so would I. Like, I like that idea.
I think that makes sense for them too. I think that's the ideal solution, a porting house with free updates here and there.
Yeah.
Oh, and were you dissing on Ubisoft this entire time, Maddie? With all your crapping on remakes or remasters only having slight resolution updates, and I don't know if you remember, but that Ezio trilogy.
I haven't played that.
I liked it. No, I mean, because it was up 3 games for the cost of one, but it was slightly updated, and admittedly, not. It's the level that you're talking about right now, that low level, but it was still for me. But I get
sure that applies. But for me, I was really just thinking Skyward Sword. I think that's like, okay, you got away with 3D All-Stars. Now they're doing Skyward Sword. I'm like, fuck
or
you
Skyward
guys,
Sword.
man.
I haven't seen,
Fuck
dude.
you guys.
I go into my Discord. That game is now it's sort of like the child that's brought forward whenever you want to point at somebody acting poorly. Like, it comes up a lot, and I didn't watch that direct. So I don't know I know the vitriol because you guys have explained it, but I wasn't there to witness it firsthand. But it's pretty raw because my Discord's not like that usually, and they're on that game. Like, a lot of times when that game's mentioned, even people who liked it were like, seriously, did anybody ask for this? Yeah. And did anybody ask for this kind of, kind of port versus a real one? What were you going to say, Mike? Sorry.
Yeah, Skyward Sword was just one of those games. Like, I bought it. I remember buying it. I bought the edition with the gold Wiimote, and I played it for like maybe 10 hours.
So you're saying buying it was more of an event than playing it?
Yeah, and then I played it for 10 hours, and I never went back. And
really?
That for me was my, like, okay, that wasn't, like, maybe it got better later, but that's the only Zelda that I, like, played and just stopped. Like, I'm bored of this, and I'm just not coming back.
All right, we still got a lot of news to sift through here. Number 4, Xbox has successfully sustained its momentum thus far since the announcement of acquiring Bethesda, and it seems like they look to keep up that pace. According to a report from Windows Central Gaming, Microsoft is planning a gaming event for March 26th. Originally, Paul Thurrott stated on Twitter that the day for this event was March 23rd, but that may have received a slight bump back onto a Friday. Details on the event are light. It could be something very small or much bigger than we expect. That same reporter, Jez Corden from Windows Central Gaming, offered more information speaking as part of the Xbox 2 podcast. Quote, I know that Microsoft is heavily involved with some big third-party studios right now for exclusives. Some of the projects I've seen pitched are kind of the games I'd expect to be sort of on the level of where Bungie was like with Halo back in the day, the kind of 10-year plan sort of thing like Asobo is doing with Flight Simulator, end quote. He continues, quote, Microsoft is still moving ahead. I've seen things that are years out that are incredibly impressive that made me think that some of the studios involved could end up being acquired because of the scale of some of these projects, but it's so early that these things might never come to fruition. And that's talking to regards of like Phantom Dust, Scalebound, those types of games. But anyway, that's what he had to say about all of that. And so we have this lingering rumor of a gaming event coming soon. And if it does happen, we will likely learn next week. But anyway, I just wanted to go ahead and bring that up. We've talked about it a lot on the show, so I don't have much thoughts other than, it would definitely be a good time for it. Microsoft seems to be really pushing their foot on the gas here. We're seeing consistent announcements. We acquired Bethesda. That's official. Now we're seeing Game Pass editions. I think the icing on the cake here would be some type of event of like, now here's what's coming for the next couple of months. Sort of a E3 primer, getting ready for that. Get these third-party announcements, not out of the way, so to speak, but get them done with. So then at summer, you can have the focus be on, here's an update on Avowed, here's an update on Fable, here's what Starfield looks like, here's when Halo Infinite's actually dropping, here's a beta, that type of thing. Like, let your main big games eat up the conversation so that these don't get left to the wayside. Just some brief thoughts. I don't have much more to add other than that, unless you gents do.
I mean, if they are having an event, like, a lot of the stuff that they've announced recently would be the kind of thing that you would have an event. So I'd have to wonder, like, what haymakers you got if this is the stuff that you're just throwing out there just on the random with an event coming up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Especially if you have them this close together, why not just do them all at once, maybe? But
right.
Time to digest them, man. I feel overwhelmed and it's Wednesday.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a so it was hard to parse that comment because first of all, you can't see things that are many years out because development doesn't work many years out.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that comment was in regards to, because I'm going to tell you right now, that was the stuff that got us in trouble with Watch Dogs 1 and the ultimate downgrade.
I was going to dive into that a little bit. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is whatever I don't know. Okay. If you say many years out, I take that more than a couple, and a couple meaning 2. Again, this could just be me being anal with like how you use that language. But if you're saying, if you're saying many years out, that's not, we've seen many years out. Do you know what it was going to be? Crackdown 3 in the cloud. Guess how that worked out. So I think it's best. That's why you won't hear me say stuff like that, because it's like, dude, you're always going to have prototyping, but the prototyping for the hardware, even the internet bandwidth you expect for your multiplayer changes in that amount of time. There's huge things that change. So I don't know what that discussion's about. So I can't talk about the future stuff, but what I can say is if I agree with Mike, if you're going to have another event, like it seems like odd timing. And then it does seem, I'll just add in, it seems a little bit fanboyish. Like, yeah, they've got so much, they're doing one every, week or whatever. I think it would make more sense to do one next month if they were going to, and give a little bit more time. But you know what? Microsoft might also be looking and saying, hey, we've got all positivity right now. Let's just keep being positive and just keep rolling stuff out too. It's just, they didn't even hint. They didn't even hint that there was something at this last one, which I guess it's hard for Phil to even not hint. I mean, I like Phil, but he is a kid at heart. I mean, watch that dude talk and be like, somebody ask him a question. Here's Phil. Phil's got a smirk I can't do, but Phil's always got a smirk, and he's like, yeah, we're working on something. There's always some little thing. Yeah. There was none of that. It was like, this is solidly awesome what we're doing right now. And that's why the energy didn't speak to me as we're doing something all over again in just a week, if that makes sense.
I think they're going to, because mind you, I'm thinking on a smaller level. The reason I say that is because they do have a Xbox Wire post we covered on this show that was posted back in January 15th. It says here are the games coming exclusively to Xbox in 2021, and a lot of them are smaller titles. The Artful Escape, Adios, The Ascent, The Big Con, Crossfire X's Campaign, just a lot of those. Echo Generation, Exomecha, not to list out the whole article here, but point being is there are a lot of smaller third-party things like Dark Tide. I always forget its name, but there's a lot of smaller things coming exclusively, and I think that might be a good platform to just say, hey, we're going to give some updates on some games. These are all exclusive, and keep that momentum going. I think that's really important, because right now you can tell, I don't want to say backpedaling. That's so dramatic, but PlayStation announced way ahead of time that Jade Raymond is working on something new for them, and I think it's called Haven Studios. And all I'm saying is I don't think if Xbox were dominating the conversation in the industry right now as hard as they were, they probably would not have said anything, because it's very clear that game's, she just left Google Studios, so whatever idea they have is barely even an idea at this point.
I was under the impression that was Jade Raymond doing the announcement of the company, just so you know.
Trying to
I don't think that was connected to Sony.
Get people out there to
I believe on that one in particular, just so you know, Maddie, I'm almost 100% sure that was.
So you don't think
that?
I'll double check it, but
that was.
It's not like a Kojima thing.
No, I mean, she might be doing an exclusive, but I'm saying they needed to announce their company. She had moved, she had left, and this was the time to announce her company. So
this is a. We're out here. We already have a partnership with PlayStation.
Yeah.
You can come work for my company without worrying that we're going to be out on the street in a year.
Because that's actually one of the things she pointed out. In fact, in the announcement was COVID and hiring people.
Wait, hold on.
She wanted.
Hold on. Jade Raymond introduces Haven. This is from PlayStation Twitter account. Jade Raymond introduces Haven, a new Montreal-based game development studio working on an original new IP for PlayStation.
Yeah.
So what am I missing?
What
we're saying is that it has nothing to do with Sony. That has to do with her announce. It is time for her to announce it. Has nothing to do with Microsoft's timing. it is her announcing that she is working with Sony.
Oh.
I'm just saying, I don't think that particular thing was Sony.
You don't think it was responsive?
Correct. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
A good example is when Square Enix first announced the Avengers project. Like, they had no game. They had nothing. The announcement of the Avengers project was building hype, but also saying, Crystal Dynamics is working on an Avengers game. Please come work with us if that's a thing you care about.
Interesting.
Okay. That makes sense.
I didn't appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that too. I actually hadn't thought of it in that sense, but you're absolutely right. Especially because didn't we hear that Activision laid some people off too? Wasn't there some weird thing that they got a Blizzard token?
Activision,
or something?
Yeah, they gave him $200 gift cards. Yeah. So, I don't mean to laugh, just that's so
The one
up.
thing that I will say is Aaron Greenberg posted a picture of Phil playing Destiny 2 on a Surface. And I think it was Tom Warren who was like,
right.
Yeah, I think that's Destiny 2 playing on cloud. Like, not on the Surface per se, on cloud, which hasn't been
announced,
and they haven't done the cloud,
like
the cloud
rollout
PC app. Yeah,
that's true too.
So maybe some Bungie stuff also, because as Corden says in another quote, he talks about third party collaboration on a very long term.
Oh, true. That is true, Cloud. Yeah. And it could be, Maddie. I was just saying, I believe that because of Jade's her leaving Google and now Google's and the issues there and all that, I just didn't think it was tied to this kind of stuff. But I could be wrong on that, by the way.
No, and you guys are more than likely right. I think your read on the situation might be better than mine.
Do you think? All right, I have a question for you. So, you think you're hoping then that next week's is more of a, like, here's our not Bethesda stuff? Is that what you're saying? Because that would not surprise me as much. I guess I was under the assumption you were
Bethesda
saying
stuff.
No, I was under the impression you were saying, like, here's something like Bungie size. But what you're saying is maybe here's like these other games that we haven't been able to talk about. Okay.
Yeah, like a little 20-minute show.
A direct, their version, I guess.
The Ascent, games that, now that there's attention on Xbox, I think now's a good time to talk about them.
Avowed would be show a trailer of Avowed and give it to me, whoever's listening. Give me your trailer of Avowed. I'll upload it. I'll record it with my cell phone. Maddie will do it, right? Maddie and I will leak it.
And why not?
Let's do it.
Number 5. Halo Infinite received a brand new batch of details in the latest Ask 343. Just no screenshots, no gameplay yet, just talk. So I wanted to cover this as due diligence for the show, but other than that, I'm still just standing pat until we can see the game.
Yeah,
I'm starting to join the side of Carrick with this from just wanting to see the game.
Yes, time.
So we have a day-night cycle, which has dynamic weather system. Cutscenes are impacted by that day-night cycle, as well as the weapons that you have equipped. There are multiple biomes in Halo Infinite's world, such as the Pacific Northwest, wetlands, war-torn areas. There's caves. There are more patrols at night. There are no hostile wildlife, no dual wielding, and no playable elites. You can knock enemies and objects off the ring. Audio logs in the environments, such as birds. Audio logs in the environments. I wrote this shorthanded. Audio logs can be found in the environments. Birds can hint at locations by circling overhead where you should explore. The Halo ring is rendered in full 3D, so there are eclipses as the sun passes behind it, and you can complete side quests at your leisure. So, couple little noteworthy things in there. Neo JD says, what do you think of Halo Infinite not having dual wielding or playable elites? Another bad omen. I worry more and more that they're talking about things and sort of like crossing stuff off the list before showing it. I wonder if they're almost preparing in advance to set expectations and go, look, see, we said that. What do you mean? That type of thing. So yeah, I'm just, I don't have much more to add here. I multiple biomes sounds cool. Dynamic weather sounds cool, but I want to see that in action.
It sounds like a game that may come out one day.
That is why I like Mike. Perfect. He just said what I was going to say, so I don't need to answer. That's Maddie. That would be my answer as well. And what I would have. That is exactly it. It sounds like, and Maddie said checking off a list. That sounds like somebody checked off a list of any game that's currently coming out. and then said, look at our game. It's like, okay, great, but it's time, guys, or it's not time. Just shut up and work on it, or show us. But don't tell us it'll have a sun. You'd be like, okay, great. Wow. It'll have birds, which, by the way, mentioning birds indicating what might be in the world does not sound like Halo to me. I actually, if I was somebody who was over the top of that, I probably would have just edited that and been like, let's not talk about that. Even if it's in the game. I just mean, don't give people the wrong impression.
No hostile wildlife.
It's going to be Primal, your favorite game, Maddie. It's going to be Far Cry Primal, your favorite game. You know what? I don't like you. You're banned. You're banned.
Man, Far Cry Primal was great.
No! Maddie! No! Maddie's going to have to replay it at some point.
Bro.
Poor Maddie.
Look, they took a map that was existing, took Far Cry back, and then it worked. Somehow it worked. They reused an entire map, recast it, and it still worked. It was fantastic.
No. Poor Maddie. No. Poor Maddie. God. Maddie's 2 or 3-0 now, I think, right? Because it was somebody else was on. Oh, it was on the ham radio. Somebody else liked it. I was like, oh yeah.
I don't know.
I feel vindicated.
I think I like
Mike,
Primal
what do you think about Battlefield Hardline?
I mean, I like 4. I just think I like Primal more than 4.
But did you like Battlefield Hardline?
It was. I only sort of played it.
Oh well, okay, that's good. That's
so
but he didn't say didn't like it like me, where I hate it. So you got a little bit of you got a friend in Mike a little bit on that one.
Yeah. I don't know if Mike's going back.
That's awesome.
I mean, don't try to censor me because I tell the truth here.
Yeah.
All right, number 6. Remember the Outer Worlds? We wouldn't blame you if you missed the news because the timing announcements for this game really couldn't have been worse. For starters, as we reported last week, Murder on Eridanos is arriving March 17th, so by the time you're listening to this episode, it'll be out. It's the second and final expansion for the game, noir-themed murder mystery with a whole new planet to explore, plenty of quests to take on, and, of course, the murder of Halcyon Helen to solve. More notable, the Outer Worlds silently received a 26-gigabyte update over on the Xbox Series X and S consoles. The game has been finally optimized for next-gen hardware and is running at a smooth 60 FPS just in time for this new DLC. So just wanted to float that out there for those of you who are looking to go back. It is running at 60 FPS on your new consoles. I don't know about PlayStation yet. I did not see anything of that, but since it's multi-platform, I would imagine they're also going to get that. Moving on, number 7, speaking of final expansions, newly acquired id Software has announced Doom Eternal, The Ancient Gods Part 2 with a full trailer. The DLC is coming tomorrow, or actually today, I'm sorry, as we talk about this, it is tomorrow. Anyway, by the time you hear this episode, the DLC will be out, and it's going to be on Xbox, PC, and yes, PlayStation as expected. So if you want more Doom Eternal, it will be available to you.
Did either of you play Ancient Gods Part 1?
I did not, no.
Okay, then. I was like, did you think Eternal got hard for you at some points?
Yeah. You mean difficulty?
Okay, so Eternal Gods is like that to the next level. Like, it is definitely a DLC for like
hardcore.
Oh, for the hardcore. Like, okay, we know that you're maybe you got through some of this and you were the one that did all those extra little small arena challenges. Like, this DLC is for you. So I'm just like, I was trying to figure out if anyone else had played part 1, because part 1 was harder.
Oh, gotcha. That'll probably strike it. That'll probably strike it off my list, to be honest, because is there Marauders in it? There's
a dual Marauder fight.
It's not. I'm done. I'm done. I don't care. No. I don't care. I know some people are like, the Marauders are fine. I just didn't. They didn't even feel good to me. And I love crunchy hard games. I don't care what you're saying. I'm not playing that. Then I don't want 2 Marauders in the same. Oh. Man,
no, I mean,
that's a little. You're like a masochist if you dive into that and enjoy it, right? Like, that's the reality.
That's the reality. Yeah, dude. I remember looking on Twitter and you could see, because people couldn't talk about what it was. You could see people like subtexting, I think that's a term, where they would like throw out a vague text and be all, yeah, bad enemies aren't good in good games or what, like, and if you're playing a game, you know what I mean? You're playing a game and you're looking at your Twitter going, I absolutely know what he's talking about right now. Like, I know that. There were people who were so mad in the DMs. They were just like, this goddamn Marauder, what the?
Oh, dude, when I complained about it on Twitter, so many people try to ego me and go like, you're just, not understanding how the game works. I'm like, look, it's not that they're difficult at a certain point. They're just fucking annoying. And kill the pace of a fight. Yeah. And it's not fun. That's why. It's not that they're really annoying. And you're like, oh.
They were really annoying.
Yeah.
As a character. But hey, you know what? Overall, still a good game. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my top 5 last year. Number 8, and then we got one more, and we'll get into our Game Pass picks of the week. For those who haven't heard of it, Devotion is a first-person PC horror game depicting the life of a family shadowed by religious beliefs set in 1980s Taiwan in a apartment complex. It comes by way of Taiwanese developer Red Candle Games. This was the game that was stripped off of Steam and GOG had walked back on due to pressure from China after a joke about its president was discovered and then removed. For those who were able to play it, it was critically acclaimed despite potentially costing its Chinese publisher partner IndieVent, its business license due to the controversy. Fortunately, for those who are interested in checking it out and supporting the team directly, you now can. Over on redcandlegames.com, you can now purchase the full DRM-free copy of the game for $16.99. Originally released on February 19th, 2019, it has been a long road to make this game available for sale to everyone, so we do highly encourage you at least give it a look. While I have not played it, I know they've been looking for a way to sell this game, and it just kept getting taken down, and stores kept walking back on them. So I just want to put that on people's radars for a game that apparently was very good, that was looking for some extra sales. All right. Number 9, just a quick thing. Microsoft's bringing back achievements on the Xbox mobile app. Currently, it is in beta testing as we speak. So the tab is there and you can track your achievements and all that stuff through the mobile app, which is good news for those who, a lot of people seem to be excited about it.
I know. Whatever.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Like, whatever, man. I don't look at my achievement. I have achievement hunting friends, but that's not my thing. So.
Well, yeah, we've got entire...
I like achievements and stuff, but like an app, I don't care. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, yeah, and what are you going to be doing? Like playing and then it pings on your app? Is that what they're saying? So like you're playing and then you can hear it on your cell phone?
I don't know.
Does it call you?
I tried looking
like, hey,
into
beautiful.
it, and it looks like you can just...
You killed 1,000 people.
It just looks like you can just dive into the app and see your achievements, kind of like the achievements tab was on the console, but they removed it for some reason.
You know why, Maddie? Because these youngins are on Tinder, they're meeting up with chicks, and they're like, you want to see my achievements? It's pretty,
there you go.
They're like, are you good at Gears? And the girl says, yeah. And they're like, show me your achievements. And then they show each other the achievements to make sure they're not lying about their game score. Bet you that.
Proof.
Yeah, proof right there.
Prove your gamer cred, man. All right. That's it for the news. Really long list of news this week. So we thank you for sitting with us. Now we kick back, relax, and let's talk Game Pass pick of the week. So, Mike, you're our guest. If someone's got Xbox Game Pass, they got to download a game. What is your pick?
It's time to play Prey. Everyone missed it when it first came out, but it's great. It's a fantastic game, especially if you sort of want to get a little bit of that old System Shock 2 feel in there, or if you've never played those games, the BioShock games is that same feel. And they later added the Moon Crash alternate mode to it, which is like amazingly dope. So this is one of those games that came over when Bethesda added a whole bunch of their games to Game Pass, and it's absolutely worth your time. And I think it's also one of the games that was added with the FPS Boost, maybe.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Whoa, wait, what? Prey was on the FPS Boost?
Yeah, it was one of the FPS Boost games. That and Dishonored, I think, were both FPS Boost games. So
I missed that.
But I forget to write that down at the beginning.
Yeah, you might have read it. You may have read that, Maddie. I guess I missed Prey.
I did say it. Yep, Prey is on that list. It's interesting because Prey almost got this kind of like what I was talking about, almost like a pseudo remaster. Obviously, it's going to look a little bit crisper on the Series X, but now you got the FPS boost at 60 frames, and the load times on consoles were one of the biggest points of contention with this game as well, is that it would take like a minute plus I was watching a video by Digital Foundry, like on the 1S, I think, take about a minute to load into a new location. And towards the end of the game, you're going to different parts of the station.
Right.
And so you're loading a lot.
Yeah.
So it's been cut down to, at least on the Series X, it was about 10 to 15 seconds in that range, which is a massive improvement. So it's a lot more accessible. And so you'll be in the game more, and that translates better. So yeah, I agree with Mike entirely. Prey is good. I had some flaws with it. I gave it a wait for, I think it said like wait till it was like $45 to pick it up, but with it being on Game Pass.
Well, it also had some tech issues, if I remember right. So did Dishonored 2. I remember both of those games.
Dishonored 2, big time.
Dishonored 2, big time. Mine is Kathy Rain, man. Point and click freak. I love me some Kathy Rain. It's a biker chick who's also a psychic, and she's going to explore the death of her granddaddy. It was, I think I did that for Raw Fury. I think I did a review for Raw Fury, and who are one of the smaller publishers. I love them. And I just love point and clicks. I think Thimbleweed Park was another one of my choices in the last couple weeks too. And it's just, if you're a point and click fan, Kathy Rain never got any real push. They were too small at the time, I think, to like get, other than like a couple reviewers. But if people aren't looking for that, they might see Kathy Rain review and go, what is that? And not even click on it.
Right.
So right now is the time. You should definitely check that out. That would be mine.
Nice. Yeah, I never heard of that. So a lot of people appreciate when we get those types of suggestions. Mine, sticking with the whole Bethesda thing, and I think this will be a trend for a while with Game Pass, but I picked The Evil Within 1. Especially because The Evil Within 2 was such a big step away from what I thought made The Evil Within 1 great.
I was about to say, I was like,
Agreed.
all right.
Yeah, I mean, do you like the second one more?
I think I like the story of the first one more, but I like that little open town area, and I like the combat a little bit better in the second one.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think that's totally fair to say. The reason I like The Evil Within 1, I went back to it for a stream on my channel, and I was playing it, number one, a lot creepier.
Yeah.
Which I think was lost in the sequel.
Yeah.
I kind of dig, even though it's not a good choice at all, the resolution and the film grain the game has. I think it creates a atmosphere, like an old horror movie kind of atmosphere. And that was definitely intentional, but it's not for everyone. So for those who don't know, Evil Within 1 has these black bars on the top and bottom of your screen. Like it's this cinematic trailer constantly playing, and that can be frustrating. Would love to see that full screen and what that's like. I think it would still, just based off the level design and the creatures and the tension of the gameplay, it would still maintain its atmosphere. But I think it does add a little bit to it if you can enjoy that. But going back to it, I got to say I was a big fan of its progression. I forgot the great leveling up system that they had in it, where you would collect like the green goo, and you would have to sit down in that chair, and you'd get different upgrades for your weapons and Sebastian himself. I forgot about the matches. I don't know if the sequel had that, where you would have to like use a match and light an enemy on fire. That was like, not only did you have to manage your resources, but then you had to manage, who do I burn?
Right.
Who am I okay with putting down a second time?
Right.
That was really cool. And so the game really never let up. And I loved it about that. It was a little bit longer than I expected to, so you get some good time out of it. And ultimately, if you haven't tried The Evil Within 1, I don't know if you like that. I would say go try out the sequel, because they're totally different. I would say The Evil Within 1 is more akin to something like older Resident Evil games, where 2 is actually kind of like The Last of Us in a weird way. And that's not a bad thing.
2, I would say, is closer probably to RE4, if you're really like aiming, like it's more action-oriented. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that too, Maddie, because Evil Within 2, I didn't like because of camera view, and they patched that out. Or didn't patch it out, they patched it in. Yeah. So they fixed the camera, and I revisited that after I reviewed it and dinged the camera multiple times for not letting me like be in the game as much as I wanted. And when I went back and played it, that plus the patch that I got for Dragon Age Inquisition both taught me a big lesson on like distance of the character from the camera and how it changes the entire narrative, whether you're third person, first person, that kind of thing. So
interesting. Okay, yeah, I'll have to give it a look when they inevitably add Evil Within 2 to Game Pass.
At some point, right?
Check it out and see.
Right.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to backwards compatible picks of the week. Mike, once again, you're our guest, so I love your pick. I already see what it is.
SSX. SSX on 360, which is another one of those titles I think you sort of look back on and you're like, we didn't know how good we had it to have. I was so as a tangent. I was just watching a video about the Predator, the most recent Predator film, and it made me realize how good Predators, the previous sequel,
the movie was
actually.
Yes.
And we had maligned it at the time.
We had.
Everyone sort of passed over it, forgot it, and it was really good.
Yep.
We just weren't ready. And SSX is that same way. Like the SSX on 360 is a great game, but I just don't think we were in the right mindset. And it's backwards compatible, and I think it's enhanced as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
it's so good. It still plays extremely well. Just racking up points, keeping combos going. There's like the flight suit I forgot you can get, where you can just drift down mountaintops in the middle of tricks. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Like it's not as good as SSX3 is probably still my high bar, but SSX was still the 360 PS3 one was still very good. So that's my back compat pick.
Mine is Far Cry Blood Dragon.
Oh,
so
God. I thought you were about to say Primal. Primals
doesn't need to be backwards compat, baby. You go buy a system for Primal.
Boom.
So Blood Dragon is strangely enough not my favorite. I know a lot of people think Blood Dragon is probably their favorite, but it is one of those side titles where Ubisoft said, screw it, we're just going nuts. And speaking of like Predator and those old days, well, even older than Predators, but Predator, and you got Michael Behan as the main actor, and he's the guy, he was the original good guy from Terminator and Navy SEALs, another really terrible 1980s movie that's also awesome at the same time somehow. So it was just incredible. And it's over the top. And it reminds me, this is going to be a tangent, a short one. I think the reason why I like it is because it does the same thing that Outer Worlds does. The color change and the super sat look of everything, even though one's neon and one is more Sid Mead's kind of cyberpunkish, or not even cyberpunk, steampunk. I don't know what you would call Outer Worlds. I would have to go look that up. But there's something about the saturation they're in those games that I love. It's like sugar for my eyes. It's why I like Skylanders, and I'll die on my sword before I'll tell anybody I actually don't like that game. But Blood Dragon is just neon drenched awesome. It's got some great moments, and it's a shooter with, neon dinosaurs prior to Horizon Zero Dawn. So well worth it.
I never played that one, so that's one I gotta get around to. My backwards pick of the week is also available on Game Pass, by the way. It's Final Fantasy IX. So never played this one before. And I gotta say, I'm liking it. I just started it the other night. And one thing I've really appreciated for those who haven't played it is there's this show going on in the beginning of the game, and the way that they kind of tie all the characters together in a natural way, you don't see that happen in a lot of RPGs. It feels like they conveniently meshed up at the same time, and I'm liking how it's going so far. I'm interested in the characters, and I just want to put it on people's radars that sometimes you can understand the game's very old. Yeah, it's a PS1 game, but if you can look past that a little bit, because it's kind of fascinating to look at. They've redid the 3D models, so they look sharp enough,
updated, right?
And then the 2D art is just kind of messy, and it's really interesting to look at and see how far we've come. But also, I've just been enjoying it. This is a good time to go back and just try things like this and see what sticks. So. I've been rocking with this for a little bit. It's not one I've played and completed, but I wanted to float it by people since it was also on Game Pass. Usually I don't like to mesh these two, but Final Fantasy IX, I'm liking so far. Its combat music is awesome, and so I'm looking forward to playing more, and I'll be talking about it more on the show, for sure. Okay, as we near the end of our show, we just have our PC deals of the week and 5 ending questions. Starting off with PC deals. Just going to rip through a couple of these. Once again, another reminder, due to hardware shortages, we're going to focus more so on PC game sales, and we'll start to toss hardware in there when more is being produced. So on Steam, there's a Ubisoft celebration. You can get Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, Tom Clancy, and Far Cry for up to 80% off. So give that a look. Fanatical is having a Electronic Arts sale, including Star Wars Squadron at 46% off. Command & Conquer Remastered Collection at 55% off. FIFA 21 Champions Edition at 65% off. Need for Speed Heat Deluxe Edition at 66% off. The Sims 4, Carrick's favorite game, at 77% off. And Battlefield 5 Definitive Edition at 62% off, plus more. Now, I know this one may not be that appealing, given the fact that we already have,
I was just thinking that.
EA Play in Game Pass.
Just thinking that.
It's going to happen, but...
Yeah. I bet you that company running the deal, Maddie, is like, damn it!
Yeah, honestly, probably. Probably. But if you want to own any of these games, you can go through here. However, this is not on Game Pass. GOG is having a Gothic sale. So you can get Gothic 1 for 80% off, Gothic 2 Gold Edition for another 80% off, Gothic 3 for 80% off, Gothic 3 Forsaken Gods Enhanced Edition, sorry, quite the name there, for 80% off as well. This offer ends the 21st of March. So there is a good chance, hold on, this might be a patron only. Let me check the dates. Sadly, this is a patron and day one only sale. So if you hear this afterwards, it's over.
And become a patron.
Gamers
That's
Gate
your loss.
is, oh, sorry.
I was just telling them they need to become a patron. It's their loss if they missed out on the deal.
Also, with Gothic, there's a remake coming out, so maybe get it on the ground floor and try it before the remake hits.
Yeah, if you want to play games that were Dark Souls before Dark Souls, enjoy. I died to a rat like 6,000 times in Gothic 1. They are redonk hard, so be prepared. Be prepared.
Mm-hmm. And also, you could only have access to the demo of Gothic if you've had one of the older Gothic titles or whoever the developer was originally for that game. So keep that in mind that maybe if you want access to potentially future content, I'm not sure on that, they might need that as a prerequisite. So pick up Gothic 1 for 80% off. See what it's all about. Last deal is Gamers Gate. They're having a Capcom sale. Monster Hunter World Iceborne is $22 at 44% off. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy is 55% off at $13. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, Carrick and I rave about this one a lot, 73% off, $8 and more. And this will go to your Steam account. So good. A couple good sales there. All right, let's start wrapping this one up, fellas. 5 ending questions from you, the patrons. You can write in over at patreon.com/laststandmedia, just like Terrence LeBlanc did. Hey, Carrick and Maddie. I bought a Series X after skipping the Xbox One and kind of slowing down my gaming in general after the 360 era. If it wasn't for Game Pass, I wouldn't have checked out a lot of games I have since November, one of them being Gears Tactics. And after watching Carrick's review and hearing Maddie mention it's good in passing on the show, I'm curious what you guys would recommend I play next. I've heard it's similar to XCOM, wasn't sure which title I should dive into on the Xbox, or if I should give something else a shot entirely. I've been enjoying the tactical combat in Wasteland 3, but I'm looking for something a little more pick up and play and linear. So with that, narrowing it to Xbox, pick up and play linear, quick hop in, hop out kind of game, not really an experience or a story.
XCOM Chimera Squad might be, I can't remember, is that a console? Because that's definitely, it's more, go ahead.
I think it's PC only.
Is that PC only? Okay, I couldn't remember.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, that was definitely more pick up and play than XCOM overall. But I'm trying to think, he's already got the sort of pick up and play one, hasn't he? Gears Tactics is sort of, I mean, not to say it's not strategic, it is. I don't know of any. Banner Saga was the other one I was going to say, but that's really complex. Like that's.
Yeah, but that's short. That's probably a good pick because Banner Saga is like 8 to 12 hours tops.
Depending on which one, yeah.
Each of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I thought 3 was longer. I could be wrong. I could be.
Maybe
it doesn't matter,
sorry,
but you still, you are right. They are in general shorter. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have similar tactical combat, and they are, I don't want to say linear, they have branching choices, but it's not like you're exploring your world and going all over the place. It's a lot of micromanaging of resources as well. Pick up and play, though. I'm going to throw one Game Pass game out there, because I don't know if you own this physically. Fusion Frenzy is a great party game that not enough people talk about, and that is definitely pick up and play. Maybe it's not a story game, but it is a fun party game that you can play by yourself. There's a huge variety of mini games. It's got really an exciting personality to it. I dig it a lot. So there's also that there. But There are, I'm trying to think, I'm going through my head on games I've downloaded. Most of them are like some type of experience, like a Remnant from the Ashes or The Hunter. You know, those are games that my friends and I downloaded. Streets of Rage 4, pretty good pick up and play as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add on top. Like pick up and play, I don't even know.
It's hard to find that nowadays unless it's multiplayer.
Yeah, Chimera Squad's the only one that popped up, but it looks like it is PC only. So, yeah, that's the only one I can think of in that line.
You might be able to do, what was it? Other than Halo Wars 2, if you're sticking with strategy, try Shadow Tactics. What's it, Shadow?
Yeah, Shadow
I
Tactics.
think Shadow Tactics is on Xbox.
There's also the Duck one. I did this, I don't know why. But the Duck, Mutant Chronicles. Mutant Chronicles kicked my
Mutant Chronicles
butt, though. Man,
yeah, Mutant Chronicles is real hard, and that's why I didn't like. I thought immediately Desperados 3, but I was like,
oh, Desperados 3 is so good, though.
It's very good, but it's hard.
Yeah. Desperados 3, though, Mike, I think we'll just tell him buck up, little soldier, and play it, even if it is hard, because that game is good.
And those are linear games, like you go level to level to level, but the time you'll spend in a level, it'll be like an hour, 2 hours.
Dude, when you can
just working it out.
Did you reviewed that one?
Yeah, I did.
When you get the character that can seduce people and control them, my brain was like, what the hell is going on?
Her and the voodoo lady who can link two people together, so when you kill one, you kill the other one as well.
Dude, it's so good. It's so good. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Manny.
Desperados 3.
Yeah, Desperados 3.
If you're ready for the difficulty of it.
Is Control pick up and play? I've never played Control, but is that, I know it's shorter and it's a little more linear, but is that
I mean,
pick up and play?
I think Control's
you can jump into Control.
And it's awesome because it's so I mean, dude, Maddie, like, I can't believe you haven't played it, first of all, because when you do, I bet you'll be like, oh my God, what was I doing? But when you can grab like a desk off, you know how old desks would have the two shelves and they'd be like drilled into the desk, so it's all one piece. In that game, you can like tear
it. My house, actually.
Oh, okay, you know what I mean? You can tear like just the desk off, and so the papers are flying, the things are falling. There's a lot of kinetic feel to everything. It's just, it doesn't feel like a level in a lot of moments there where things feel almost like just taped to the wall, you know, like a lot of games do, because it's so destructive.
Cool. Yeah, I want to give that a look for sure. That's on my list. Derek O says, hey there, Dukes of Hazzard. You guys are on a bunch of podcasts, but which one do you listen to in your downtime, gaming or otherwise? I always enjoy a good paranormal podcast myself. I got to be honest, Derek, I do not have an answer to this. I don't really listen to many podcasts. So, you know, I try, part of it's like, I'll listen occasionally to Sacred Symbols, which I know sounds ridiculous because I'm a part of that network, but I try to not listen to gaming podcasts much because I want my thoughts to not leech off of someone else's.
Same.
You know, yeah. So I just feel like it's important for me to listen to the audience and read and interpret for my own, and so I can just be as honest and upfront as possible. But you know, I used to try to listen to like sports shows and stuff, but I don't know, it never really lit my fire. So I'm personally not on the podcast bandwagon. I don't know if both of you are.
I listen to a ton of podcasts. It just depends on, like I get actually YouTube Premium, so I can listen to video essays as podcasts with the screen off while walking. I'll say Pop Culture, The Weekly Planet, which is two Australian dudes talking about pop culture news and stuff, almost like this, but you know, that's really good. And then if you like paranormal stuff, I mean, it's pretty easy recommendation, but the No Sleep podcast, which just audio dramatizes stories from the No Sleep, you know, like fiction stuff, Reddit. Yeah, so that's pretty good too if you like paranormal shit.
If Garnet Lee would get off his butt, actually, I'm saying that wrong. I think he just did, but he used to do the One Up Yours podcast, and then he left, went work for Amazon, and I think he started working for somebody else, moved to Sweden. I think he just started a podcast, so his will probably be one of the only game podcasts I listen to, because I don't really want to listen to game podcasts because I'm doing games and I'm in podcasts. Like at some point, my brain, I do 8 podcasts, like that's enough. So I do a lot of audiobooks though. a lot, like redonk number of audiobooks. And I would say Hard Magic is really good as a audio. I do all the Reddit horror podcasts. I do Welcome to Night Vale. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
That one is phenomenal. It takes a little while to get into, but if you just sit back and let it go, that is a really cool shared experience story. So those would be mine.
Nice. Yeah, I like the sounds of that. Sounds pretty good. Jeffrey Leonard's next. Hey, Maddie and Carrick, as well as Mike. A long-held debate between Xbox and PlayStation gamers has been the choice between built-in batteries and battery packs that can be charged. Where do you fall on this particular argument?
There's no argument. You're wrong. Feel like battery packs are dumb. It makes no sense. I'm not going to be beholden to a company and their battery pack. That's my answer. I don't have any Benang. That's it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I gotta say, yeah, I don't understand why anyone would want to say. I get the one thing that's happened is, oh well, Xbox controllers lasted really long, but now that the PlayStation 5's DualSense lasts really long, I think Xbox needs to kind of grow up and leave behind their precious batteries because it feels very early 2000s. Like the fact that there were controllers I used back then that demanded my batteries and still do to this day. It's just a really weird feeling when so much around us has advanced. So personally, I am on the side of rechargeable. I don't like, because I went to CVS because I had to get batteries for my Xbox controller. And dude, they sold 12 for $16. And I know CVS upscale shit a ton, but I go on Amazon and they're selling 45 for 12. And I'm like, well, this is obvious. I'm going to go with this. But even then, that's $12 that maybe that's a sandwich one day. That's my lunch. Instead, it went to batteries for my fucking controllers.
I could deal with it. I need to lose a couple pounds. I'm good.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't
I'm
care.
160, so.
I've never had a controller. I mean, I play fairly a lot. I've never had a controller like die, like with a built-in battery, just never charge again. But I also do like being able to just put in some rechargeable batteries into the Xbox controller if I need to charge it. But generally what ends up happening for me is I'll just switch to another controller. Like it's like, oh, this controller's dead. I'll just pick up the next Xbox controller, plug it in, move on, whatever. So I can see the benefits of rechargeable batteries and not battery packs, but I like day to day, I just don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I can see that.
Cat Charlie's our next write-in. Hey guys, loving the podcast despite not playing Xbox. In the last episode, you mentioned crossplay with PlayStation at 4242. Carrick said it's just like Microsoft said, we have no issue with crossplay. That was it. And everyone was like, well, it must be Sony who had issues with crossplay. And it reminded me that back in 2012-ish, Sony was open to crossplay PS3 with 360, but it was rejected by Microsoft on the basis of Sony's network not being good enough. Since then, Sony has returned the rejection and has started going into an American-focused direction. Moving forward, how do you think this de-Japaneseification of Sony will affect the two companies? Will they learn to work with each other? Will customers be more likely to go to Xbox and Game Pass, or will they continue to try and appeal to the same audience using two different methods?
He's incorrect.
Yeah, I brought this in here because I couldn't find particular things on this. I know that Sony's cutting down some of their Japanese studios.
Yeah, and Xbox is the reason why Xbox refuses because Xbox's network was about 800 billion gillion times faster than the PS3 network. Sony's online is just donkey balls. So there's a difference between refusing due to technical issues and just flat out refusing now. And that's why you saw developers accidentally turning on their crossplay a couple times, including what was that? Arena League?
I think Rocket League.
Or Rocket League. Yeah, didn't Rocket League By the way, any IT person who hears that would want to kill somebody if somebody said they accidentally did that. Like, not. Go ahead, Mike. Unless you have something, maybe I'm wrong.
They turn it on. I mean, no, that's pretty much how it is. And I mean, I think we've sort of crossed the crossplay divide a lot.
I think you're right.
For the most part at this point, that's done. Now the question is cross progression.
Progression.
Like, cross save, like, because I'll buy a game Like I'll review, like they'll send me a code, I'll review a game, and then I'll buy it again. Because sometimes I want to play, like Immortals Phoenix Rising. When I was reviewing that, I reviewed it on PC. But every now and then I would play it on Switch. Just move the save over, play it on Switch for a little while, in bed or something like that. Or Valhalla, I reviewed on PC. Actually, I didn't get to review it. We had someone else review it, but I played it on PC. But then at a certain point, I needed space on my PC, so I just started playing it on PS5, and that's where I kept playing it. And I can do that because Ubisoft has cross-save now with Ubisoft Connect. So that's the thing now. Like, cross-play is pretty normal. Outriders is coming with cross-play. I think Avengers is missing it on PC. One of the platforms is left out.
I know nothing about that game.
I think Avengers is missing on Xbox, actually. I think it's PS4. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's PS4 and PC, and then Xbox by itself, by its lonely.
Yeah, I knew it was one of those that's missing. But like crossplay seems to be less of a problem these days, and it's cross progression that is more the like, hey, you need to bring that over.
Yeah, agreed. Especially for me, I do Uplay stuff, and like for a while, some of that stuff wasn't cross, and so you'd buy. In fact, I think the store is still not. So if you buy something in the store, right, it's still not applied to the other versions, because I bought some stuff for Syndicate recently, and I didn't realize it was the wrong one, and I bought like some, Canes or whatever, and I was getting ready to replay Syndicate, and I sat down and I realized, oh man, all the stuff's on separate platforms. Oh.
Well, see, yeah, their problem is it's not necessarily the store; it's the fact that they didn't bring it back. Which game was it? Was it Legion? I think one of the games that they just released doesn't have Ubisoft Connect at all. I think it might be Legion.
Oh, might be Legion until the multiplayer came out. Maybe they didn't have it until the
So they basically started it with Valhalla and Immortals and forward.
Gotcha.
And they haven't brought it back.
Gotcha.
And they really need
that would
to,
make sense.
Because, I had the same problem. I brought up Syndicate on something else, and I was like, oh, it's time to play. Oh no.
Yeah, I love Syndicate, and I still played it, but I was sort of ruined my missing cape or whatever it was I was missing. I was like, damn it.
Last question of this wonderful episode. Kevin Wader writes in, my dogs, do you have difficulty enjoying the gameplay of any 360 era 3D games? I downloaded Skyrim on Game Pass to enjoy my old friend for the first time since January 2012. As soon as I finished the first combat encounter, I was shocked at how bad it felt, and I quit out of the game. It's just a matter of adjusting. I was happy to see you guys slide into Last Stand's value package. Thanks for all the great content. Our pleasure, Kevin.
Oh, that's just Skyrim, man. Skyrim does not
feel good to play.
Skyrim's combat is bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun to explore, but...
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of like when somebody gives you the worst sample group ever for an opinion, and you're like, well, should we talk about the sample group, or should we talk about the situation itself? I think you guys are right. Skyrim, it's just rough. It's rough combat-wise. In fact, I usually go mage or archer or something like that because I just don't want to engage a lot of times. Yeah. But I get what he's saying. I mean, yeah, we get those games. We've talked about it before, like quality of life, where, actually, Mike was talking about it earlier when he said, when you're remaking a game, do you want to remake the old one, or do you want to merge a little bit of the newer ones in to the remake? So almost like if you're going to remake, a Skyrim, do you want to take any improvements that you've got from other places, or do you just remake Skyrim exactly as it is? And yeah. I mean,
sometimes those games just don't play. Not an Xbox game, but Uncharted 1, I remember when Uncharted Collection came out, and Uncharted 1 does not age well. It's just not
so
great
funny.
anymore.
I like that game still. I still like it a lot.
Have you played it, though, recently, Maddie?
Yeah. Yeah, within the last, 3 years.
Oh, dude, yeah. I returned to it about a year ago, and I was like, camera.
Yeah,
it definitely feels floaty in a lot of areas.
Yeah, I ended up going I played through all three, and I was like, Uncharted 1 just doesn't play well anymore. And then Uncharted 3 actually got better for me. I was like, I remember this not being good. But
it's funny because this brings up a contentious point. So let's decide now if Mike can ever come back. Let's ask him the most important question. Don't give it away, Maddie. Which Mass Effect is best, 1, 2, or 3? Mike?
Mass Effect 2. Now, I will say.
Score one.
I will say.
Score one.
Mass Effect 1, I really enjoy, but it's a different style of game than what came after.
Okay.
So,
whatever. Thanks for coming, Mike. You're gone. I don't get it, man. I just was playing one. I feel like Maddie talking about Uncharted. I was just playing one and I'm like, it doesn't play that. And I have friends who are like, I just played one and I played two, and one plays like, a Genesis game. Two is like the slickest, because the shooting did obviously improve and everything in 2 and 3, but whatever.
But see, that's why I said they're different games. Like it's kind of like comparing Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2. They're very different.
Yeah, one being good and one being shit. I'm sorry. Yeah. I think we all agreed 2, right? I mean, 2 ain't
I replayed 2 just a couple weeks ago, and there are story things that have aged really well, I think.
And the gameplay did not.
The gameplay did not.
Made in a very small period of time, and they made a mistake calling it Dragon Age 2. I think if you didn't name it 2, like it's coming after Origins, and just called it. I saw Mark Dara actually posted on his Twitter. He was like, we were going to call it Dragon Age Exodus. And I think just labeling it that would have changed the whole perception alone. Because it's not trying to be the follow-up to Origins, which was masterful. It's like another Dragon Age game.
Yeah, see, and Mass Effect is the KOTOR system, which is
fair.
very good.
That's fair. I get what you're saying.
Mass Effect 2 is not.
Yeah.
Like those
Mass Effect 2 is the Call of Duty system. And not in a bad way. It's just, it is much better. It still has RPG chops for sure. But yeah.
Wait, you just said Mass Effect 2 was much better. I said Mass Effect 2 was
I like Mass Effect 1 and think it's a better game overall, but I'm not going to say that the shooting is not slicker in 2. I just didn't find the story. What? Go ahead, Maddie. Go ahead. Diss on my dreams.
I'm excited to see you play the Legendary Edition as well. I was going to say, I hope that the reworks they put in that, I mean, dude.
I'm going to be one of the ones that if they change too much, I might bounce, where it changes too much. But I think I can handle it. I think I love one story enough. Dude, one story is so good. That ending is so good. One could have ended, as a lot of people stated, one could have ended by itself and it would have been a nice, petite-sized sci-fi adventure from those guys. I'm more excited for Mass Effect, whatever we're calling it. I don't know what it's called. Legacy Edition? No. Legendary
Edition.
I'm more excited for that now than I've been in the last couple months, just sort of like trying to prepare myself.
Yeah, that's the next big game for me personally.
Is it?
And it's kind of sad because it's a remaster, but I'm looking forward to going back in when I haven't in a while.
Yeah, no, me too.
In answer to your question from my perspective, Kevin, I think it's just about accepting the time period and going, yep, this is what it is for its time. So for me, as someone who I just said is playing Final Fantasy IX, which definitely came out in the late 90s, it's like I enjoy seeing a game then and either going, wow, we have it so great now, or hey, this was really impressive for its time. Like this is something you still see in the DNA of games nowadays. So if you can shift and adjust a little bit, that doesn't mean every game you're going to end up liking because you're constantly moving your goalposts. But if you understand when the game was made and what it's doing compared to something that came out 5 years later,
right?
If you're able to do that, you might find some things that you like that will feel old, but there are some old games that still feel good to play.
Yeah,
right.
That's fair.
Yeah, and it's just you chose Skyrim, and I'm sorry that you did that.
Yeah, right. That was a little floaty.
It's great to explore still.
Oh, Skyrim?
Yeah, no, it's one of
dude, yeah. It's one of the
point A to point B is phenomenal.
If not the best, it's one of the best to explore for sure. For sure.
All right, well, that is all we've got in this very big episode for Defining Duke. Mike, it's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very
for
much.
All your input. Thank you for making time for us. We're happy to have you again, even though you seem to like Far Cry Primal. I'll probably think twice and look for someone else, but hey,
you can't hold me back like that.
Can't hold it back.
We do appreciate having you on, though, and you are more than welcome to come back if you ever so desire to be berated for some of your opinions. To those of you who listen this deep, we appreciate you tuning in. We hope to see you in episode 12. But before we go, any final words, gentlemen?
No, check out Mike Automatic Zen, right? Twitter, Automatic Zen.
Automatic Zen, Z-E-N.
And then you're doing, can you talk about the thing that you wrote that's coming up on a website we talked about? Are you not allowed to mention that?
I don't think I'm trying to remember if I am allowed to mention that.
Okay.
That's the problem with half this, like, is this
NDAs.
under embargo?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He's on, just what's the URL of where you are, Mike?
PCMag.com. It's super simple. And then, like I said, Twitter, and I do some other blog and stuff on the side, but you'll see that on Twitter when it comes up. So
excellent. Yeah,
Beautiful.
I definitely appreciate you coming on. And for me, nothing other than the hashtag, remember, Defining Duke. And make sure to review us, please. It helps.
Yeah, that'd be great. So with that, it's time for us to wrap it up. We appreciate you all. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you all next week with episode 12 of Defining Duke.
Peace
Take
out.
care of yourselves. I slurred right there. Take good care of yourselves, and peace out.
Hope you have just an acceptable day.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the good old USA. The show was conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Jeremy ACG Penter. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level or higher on Patreon, and we're grateful for your kindness and generosity.